Chapter 1. Under the cold moonlight, a figure slowly stood up from the pile of bones. Feng-Chi was stunned as he looked down at his rotting body and his white bones exposed on his arm. He clearly remembered that he was in Lao Wang's history class just a second ago. Drowsiness came over him like a tidal wave and he fell asleep on the table. When he opened his eyes again, he saw the scene in front of him. Dark clouds hung low, bones piled up on the ground, and he stood up from the pile of bones. What made his hair stand on end was that his body was rotting for some reason. Through his chest, he could clearly see his rotting gray organs and his ribs covered in scratches. Something's not right. This should be a very realistic dream. Smack. It doesn't hurt. Yes, it's a dream. But the problem is, how the hell am I going to get out of here? Just as Feng-Chi was deep in thought, a low roar came from the right. He turned his head and saw a rotting corpse that was originally lying on the pile of bones slowly standing up from the ground. Since the rotten corpse's right calf was badly damaged, before it could even stand firm, it heard the crisp sound of bones dislocating. The living dead performed a split on the spot and sat down on the spot. Feng-Chi wanted to applaud him, but the living dead roared and grabbed at him with its skinny right arm. Startled, Feng-Chi immediately took 2 steps back and dodged the undead's bite. But the living dead did not let him go. It continued to crawl closer, opening and closing its mouth as if it wanted to bite him. If it's a dream, the details are too realistic. After taking 2 more steps back, Feng-Chi turned around and saw the skeleton hanging on the tree behind him. He grabbed the skeleton's right leg bone. "I'll borrow your right leg for self-defense." As he spoke, he pulled hard, and the right leg of the skeleton that was hanging on the tree was immediately pulled off. When he turned to look at the living dead again, he found that it was getting closer. So Feng-Chi stepped forward without hesitation and smashed the leg bone on the living dead's head. Crack! After a crisp sound, the leg bone in his hand broke. His osteoporosis was quite serious when he was alive. Looking at the half of the bone in his hand, Feng-Chi could not help but complain. Fortunately, there was no shortage of bones in this graveyard. After swapping out a dry bone, he once again smashed it at the head of the living dead. This time it was effective. The undead began to tremble violently. Through the moonlight, he could clearly see that there was a small ball that looked like a heart beating slowly in the enlightened head of the living dead. When the leg bone brushed past the ball, the undead began to tremble all over. Feng-Chi guessed that this might be the zombie's weakness. Thus, he raised the leg bone and aimed it at the sphere in the zombie's head. Ba-ji! The small sphere shattered and the undead instantly stopped moving. At the same time, a thick stench of rot assailed him, causing Feng-Chi to nearly puke out his internal organs. Wait a minute? Why can I smell it? Isn't this a dream? Just as Feng-Chi was puzzled, a speck of blood-red light emerged from the undead and entered his body. Immediately after, a string of information appeared in his mind. Frail undead, Feng-Chi strength rank, ungraded prefix title, frail, 30% decrease in strength, bloodline, human, primary, bloodline evolution points, 1/1000 prefix title milestone, frail, can be leveled up first stage, 3%, prefix title first milestone, kill an undead to obtain a title evolution point. After looking at the information in his mind, another string of text appeared. You, who had just activated your bloodline evolution, were very confused. You had 100,000 questions in your heart, so you decided to quickly become stronger and try to explore the secrets of this world. What the hell? The narration that suddenly appeared in his mind caught Feng-Chi off guard. However, he did not want to become stronger according to the narration. Right now, he only wanted to return to reality and end this terrible dream. You turned your head to the east and discovered that there were many undead moving there. Thus, in order to gather bloodline energy and activate your bloodline evolution, you prepared to cruelly kill them. Feng-Chi was speechless. No, I don't want to. Feng Qi threw away the leg bone in his hand and turned around to walk in the opposite direction. However, after walking a few steps, Feng Qi discovered that the area to the west was covered by a thick fog. He could faintly see countless ghostly figures shuttling back and forth in the fog. If he listened carefully, he could even hear intermittent muttering sounds. It was very strange and terrifying. Feng Qi was never a person who was afraid of trouble. However, in order to understand the secrets of the dream, he decided not to take the risk for the time being. Thus, he turned around and walked towards the undead area. Even now, Feng Qi still did not want to admit that he had transmigrated. Just a few minutes ago, he was still a handsome and sunny young man who was about to graduate and rush towards a beautiful future, or perhaps society's cruel beating. However, no matter what, it was better than his current situation. Right now, he had actually become a thinking undead. It was incomparably ugly and smelly. Feng Qi found it hard to accept. He did not wish to be able to fly on a sword and become immortal after transmigrating, nor did he wish for beauties to throw themselves at him and have a harem of 3,000 beauties. He also did not wish to transmigrate and become an abandoned disciple of his family who had a cheat but started out as a loser. However, at least let me start out like a human. Looking down at his broken body, Feng Qi could not bear to look at it. His face was full of disgust. He tried to smell the stench on his body. He almost fainted from the stench. It was simply a hellish start. After transmigrating like this, Feng Qi had no motivation to become stronger. He felt that he might as well die. However, thoughts were thoughts. Feng Qi could not bring himself to die. Right now, he was eager to find out where he was and why he had appeared here. The path forward was covered with withered bones. Crunching sounds could be heard as he stepped on them. Feng Qi's feet would occasionally sink into a pile of bones. He had to expend a lot of energy to continue moving forward. Not far away, dozens of undead stood in place. Their bodies swayed gently in the wind. This scene was very strange. Fortunately, his mental fortitude was very strong, and he was only a little bit nervous. He decided to follow the instructions in his mind and try to kill a few undead. Then, he would see what changes would happen to him after his evolution. As he approached the area of the undead, Feng Qi stopped in his tracks. Because the undead were very close to each other, for safety reasons, Feng Qi threw the withered bones in his hand at the undead closer to him, trying to attract its attention. The withered bones drew a half-moon arc in the air and accurately landed behind the undead closest to Feng Qi, making a sound. However, the undead still stood in place. It did not seem to notice the movement behind it. Seeing this, Feng Qi realized that these undead seemed to be unable to sense their surroundings. He became bolder. He casually picked up a bone and smashed it on the ground twice to determine its hardness. Then, he boldly walked a few steps forward. At this time, the dozen or so undead not far away all turned around and looked at Feng Qi with their empty eyes. Low growls came one after another. They took a step forward, twisting their bodies as they staggered towards Feng Qi. Fuck! Just as Feng Qi was about to go on a killing spree, he saw this and decisively turned around to run. But before he could even take 2 steps, he heard the sound of bones breaking under his feet. Feng Qi's body abruptly sunk in. Damn it! Not paying attention to the situation under his feet, Feng Qi's left foot stepped on a withered bone and sunk in. He couldn't pull it out for a while. The dozen or so undead not far away were already approaching. Feng Qi was anxious and tried to pull his left leg to stand up. But the undead didn't give Feng Qi the chance to do so. They jumped at Feng Qi and began to madly gnaw on his body. Although he couldn't feel any pain, Feng Qi's young mind was still damaged. Hetue, eating your own kind, what a bastard! If you have the ability, fight me one-on-one. What's the point of ganging up on me? Am I going to die right after transmigrating? After reincarnating, please give me a newbie gift next time. His consciousness gradually blurred. He could vaguely hear the sound of chewing in his ears. Finally, his vision turned black. Pa! A piece of chalk drew a beautiful arc in the air and accurately landed on Feng Qi's head. Feng Qi, I asked you to answer a question, do you hear me? Feng Qi, who was lying on the desk, suddenly opened his eyes and slowly raised his head. Everything in front of him was so familiar. In front of the podium was Lao Wang, who had an angry look on his face. His deskmate, roommate, and best friend Mo Fei was pinching his right thigh. His classmates were looking at him in surprise. At this moment, even the air seemed so sweet. I'm back. Pa. At this moment, a board eraser accurately hit his right cheek, leaving a white mark as it slid down. Feng Qi. I'm telling you one last time, get up and answer a question. Looking at Lao Wang, who grabbed the corner of the podium and slowly lifted it up, Feng Qi didn't doubt that Lao Wang would throw the podium at him if he didn't reply. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. He swatted away Mo Fei's hand that was still pinching his thigh and stood up. Teacher Wang, I'm here. Chapter 2. The graduation exam is around the corner. How can you sleep? How can you sleep at your current stage? Can't you grow up a little? Looking at Feng Qi, Wang Jinxing put on an exasperated expression. Feng Qi was his proudest student. He had high hopes for Feng Qi's future, but he didn't expect Feng Qi to sleep in his class. After a round of scolding, Wang Jinxing opened the textbook and said with a serious expression, "Let me ask you, when did the world change begin?" Looking at Lao Wang's angry face, Feng Qi's brain worked quickly. Fortunately, he had memorized all the knowledge in this area, so he wouldn't embarrass himself at this time. After a moment of silence, the relevant information appeared in Feng Qi's mind. The world change began 500 years ago. The specific date was May 31st, 1523. On that day, domains appeared all over the world. Creatures that only existed in myths and legends descended in the domains. Humans faced an unprecedented challenge. The day of the world change was an exam that every graduate had to face every year. Because on this day, the structure of the human world changed. According to records, all kinds of domains descended in the world on that day. The small domains only covered an area of 10 square meters, while the large domains could even cover an entire city. All kinds of terrifying monsters descended in the domains. Those humans who were unlucky enough to be enveloped by the domains ushered in a nightmare. For example, Star City, where Feng Qi was at, was 500 miles east. It was originally a modern city 300 years ago, but unfortunately, it was suddenly enveloped by a domain. Most of the humans in the city were eaten by the domain creatures that descended together with the domains. Only a very small number of people were lucky enough to escape the domains and survive. In the face of the sudden threat of a domain invasion, countries took extreme measures. They used nuclear weapons to bombard the domains, wanting to raze everything in the domains to the ground. But reality proved that nuclear weapons were almost useless against the domains. They didn't make the domains disappear or weaken at all. Helpless, humans could only temporarily give up on the areas covered by the domains. Fortunately, the bloodthirsty creatures in the domains were limited by unknown factors and rarely left the areas covered by the domains. Humans were safe until now and didn't face the crisis of extinction. But everyone knew that the peaceful days were only temporary. This was because the domain that covered the entire world was slowly expanding. One day, it would envelop the entire world. In order to fight against the domain invasion, the countries took the initiative to exchange information and began to study the domain creatures that were killed by technological weapons in an attempt to find their weaknesses and find a way to survive for the future of mankind. During their research day and night, some scholars discovered that there was a mysterious substance in the air that had appeared together with the territory. This substance drifted in the air, and was extremely difficult to capture. The reason why the monsters in the territory were so powerful was closely related to the abundant special substance in their bodies. At that time, there were researchers who asked if humans could become as powerful as domain creatures by implanting this special substance in their bodies. The results of the experiment proved that the special substance could also strengthen humans. This discovery was undoubtedly a major breakthrough. Since technology could not defeat domain creatures, humans finally decided to use magic to defeat magic. Regarding this magical substance, the research team that first discovered it at that time named it spirit energy. In the following hundreds of years, human scholars advanced one after another, putting in their lifetime efforts to develop many kinds of cultivation techniques that could absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Thus, the era of human evolution began. Cultivation schools were established one after another. The main theme of human development changed from the peaceful era of economic development to a new era of martial arts for all. Relying on cultivation techniques, more and more powerhouses that could compete with domain creatures appeared in various parts of the world. Today, many small domains had been disintegrated and dispersed by human powerhouses from the inside. However, in the struggle against the domain creatures, countless human pioneers had also paid the price with their lives. Feng Qi was a fresh graduate who was about to graduate from high school and enter the school. In a few days, he would have his graduation exam. If his results were excellent, he could enter the ideal cultivation school. After graduation, he would have the opportunity to join the school's Cultivation Technique Research Institute or form and join a battle group that roamed the major domains and become a warrior. After listening to Feng Qi's story, Wang Jinxing's expression finally eased. Now, explain what happened just now. Maybe it's because I've been too tired from studying recently. There's an indescribable sense of exhaustion. I seem to have fainted just now, so I didn't hear you wake me up. As he spoke, Feng Qi frowned and rubbed his temples. After staring at Feng Qi suspiciously for a few seconds, Wang Jinxing's expression eased. He looked at Mo Fei, who was sitting beside Feng Qi, and said, Mo Fei, accompany Feng Qi to the infirmary. It's almost the exam, don't let anything happen to his body. When Mo Fei heard this, he hurriedly nodded obediently. After walking out of the classroom, Mo Fei looked at Feng Qi curiously and said, Lunatic, what's wrong with you today? I couldn't wake you up even after using so much force. Is there really something wrong with your body? I'm not sure. Maybe it's because I've been under too much pressure recently. Let's go to the infirmary for a checkup first. A moment later, Feng Qi and Mo Fei arrived at the school infirmary. The infirmary's furnishings were simple. There were 3 beds on the right side of the room and various medical supplies on the shelves on the left. There was also a small cubicle in the middle that was empty. Just then, the door was pushed open again. A beautiful figure walked in. She was about 1.68 meters tall and had a tall figure with a delicate face. She wore a loose white coat and walked toward Feng Qi with a gloomy expression. Then, she turned around and punched Mo Fei in the stomach. Mo Fei could not help but bend over with a pale face. I told you not to come to the infirmary if there's nothing wrong. How many times has it been? My brother is sick. There's really something wrong this time. Although he was beaten up, Mo Fei forced a smile. However, his smile was uglier than crying. Seeing this, Feng Qi, who was standing at the side, suddenly thought of a melodramatic plot where a bootlicker could not get the goddess of his heart. Otherwise, why didn't he fight back? Although she was pretty, if he was the one who hit her, he would grab her hair and knee her. Then, he would throw her over his shoulder. Then, he would pick her up and let her stand. Then, he would turn around and kick her. Finally, he would jump up and hit her in the face with his elbow. If she was still breathing, he would hit her with a sliding tackle. After listening to Mo Fei's explanation, the woman turned to look at Feng Qi. Her expression softened. Hello, student. I'm the new school doctor, Chen Yuzi. Where are you feeling unwell? Feng Qi thought about it and said awkwardly, I just had a very realistic nightmare. It was like I was there. I could even smell the scent in the dream. Is there something wrong with my mind? Chen Yuzi was very calm when she heard that. After all, the exams were approaching and the students were under a lot of pressure. It was normal for them to have abnormal physical or mental behavior. She had seen people running naked on the field before the college entrance exam to vent their emotions. Therefore, having nightmares was a small problem. How about this? You lie on the bed and I'll do a full-body examination for you. Hearing that, he immediately nodded and went to the sickbed in the infirmary to lie down. Chen Yuzi then walked into the cubicle in the infirmary and woke up the main control panel. While waiting, the metal ball above the sickbed slowly opened. The lights inside were crisscrossed and various medical instruments for body examination were neatly arranged. Under Chen Yuzi's control, the instruments operated and the metal arm reached down. A series of body examinations began. Electrocardiogram, blood pressure, blood test, quiet heart rate, blood pressure, lung function. After the examination, the report was slowly spat out from the control panel. Chen Yuzi reached out to pick up the report and began to check on Feng Qi's physical condition. After a while, Chen Yuzi turned to look at the worried Feng Qi and said, Your body is in good condition. There are no problems. It should be caused by the recent stress. You should be fine as long as you rest well during your revision. As she spoke, Chen Yuzi passed the medical report to Feng Qi. Feng Qi let out a long sigh of relief and reached out to take the medical report. The dream just now was so realistic that he was worried that there was something wrong with his mind. For example, he might have a mental illness like paranoia. He lowered his head and glanced at the medical report. Just as he was about to crumple it into a ball and throw it into the trash can, his eyes swept over the bloodline strength section. Feng Qi could not help but be stunned by the numerical record. Bloodline strength, Feng Qi 21. 13-inch. How is this possible? Feng Qi was shocked. Just a day ago, his bloodline level after the physical examination was still 21.03. During that time, he did not drink any expensive spiritual liquid or elixir, so there was no situation where his bloodline level increased rapidly in a short period of time. However, the data on the report showed that his bloodline value had inexplicably increased by 0.1. The value of 0.1 seems small, but in the past, if he wanted to increase his bloodline value by 0.1, he would need to go through half a month of high-intensity training. During that time, he also had to ensure his intake of nutrient. Such a strange increase made him think of the bloodline evolution points that he obtained after killing the living dead in the dream. Could it really be related to the strange dream? Chapter 3. Returning to class from the school infirmary, Feng Qi seemed a little absent-minded. He could not find the reason for the sudden increase in his bloodline strength, but he guessed that it might be related to the strange dream. You're not feeling well again. Mo Fei, who was listening attentively, turned around and asked curiously when he noticed that Feng Qi was a little absent-minded. I'm fine, maybe I haven't recovered yet. Feng Qi suddenly thought of something and asked, You know the new school doctor in the infirmary? How come I don't know? Mo Fei was a little embarrassed when he heard the question. She's my sister. She used to be a medic in a domain battle team. She was ambushed by a domain monster when she was exploring a domain, and her Dantian Sea of Qi was damaged. Her Sea of Qi could no longer store spirit Qi, so she retired and came back. She couldn't stay at home, so she applied to be the school doctor. She just passed the school's review and officially took up the position. Biological sister. Not biological sister. Then it's not a big problem. Feng Qi nodded decisively and gave Mo Fei an encouraging look. It's a big problem. Although she's not my biological sister, she's my mother's goddaughter. My mother told me that I'm not good enough for Sister Pomelo. She told me not to mess with her goddaughter, or she'll break my legs. Are you sure you're her biological sister? I'm not sure, maybe it's a free gift. After a short chat, Feng Qi and Mo Fei began to listen attentively in class. The graduation exam was around the corner, and results were of utmost importance. With good results, one would have many choices. One could enter a technique or spell research institute and become a human elite, join a domain battle team and become a domain warrior, or go to a higher education institution and become a well-paid teacher. If one's results were poor, the situation would be the complete opposite. There would not be many choices, and one would probably be beaten up by society. Therefore, the upcoming graduation exam was a turning point in one's life. Feng Qi did not dare to slack off. He made full use of the remaining time to revise. Mo Fei, who was beside him, had a different dream. He was currently flipping through the book, The History of Technological Weapons, because his dream was to be a weapon engineer or a technologist. He did not want to enter a technique or spell research institute or join a domain battle team and live a life of bloodshed. Although technology was limited in its use against domain creatures, humans had never stopped developing technology. This was because the convenience brought by technology could also speed up the progress of human civilization. Half a month later, the school's graduation exam would be held. Apart from the compulsory history exam, there would be corresponding exams for different majors. His ideal choice was the Galactic Academy. It was an advanced institution that specialized in cultivation technique research. After graduation, he would have the opportunity to join the Galactic Research Institute. Therefore, the books he read were all related to cultivation technique research. Mo Fei chose the Science and Technology Research Institute, so he flipped through the contents related to science and technology. After an afternoon of classes, Feng Qi and Mo Fei rushed to the cafeteria. Because if they ran too slowly, they might have to queue for a long time in the cafeteria. The graduation exam was just around the corner. They wanted to use the time they had to line up to study and revise. After entering the cafeteria and hurriedly finishing their dinner, Feng Qi and Mo Fei went straight back to their dormitory. The dormitory was a two-person dormitory, just him and Mo Fei. Although it was a male dormitory, the items in the dormitory were arranged very neatly, and the floor was very clean. It wasn't that he and Mo Fei were particularly clean. It was because the dormitory would be inspected every few days. The teacher in charge of the inspection would also grade each dormitory. If the dormitory didn't meet the standards, a series of troubles would come knocking on their door. Therefore, he and Mo Fei would clean every day to keep the dormitory clean. After sitting down at the desk, Mo Fei turned to look at Feng Qi and said, "Frenzy, hurry up and revise. You're not doing well today, so sleep early." Hearing this, Feng Qi nodded. Then, he also sat down at the desk, took out a book, and began to revise. Time passed by. Feng Qi was intoxicated in the sea of knowledge. He couldn't extricate himself, and he was willing to give up. After a few hours, sleepiness hit him. Shaking his head, he closed the book and went to the bed. Feng Qi decided to sleep for a while and memorize the next points later. He didn't take off his clothes and just lay on the bed. Dark clouds hung low, and the ground was covered with piles of dried bones. When he opened his eyes, everything in front of him was so familiar. As he sniffed, the familiar stench lingered at the tip of his nose, and he couldn't get rid of it. Good Lord, I'm back. Slowly standing up from the pile of dried bones, Feng Qi looked around. The world in the dream was different from reality. The moon hanging high in the sky gave off a red glow, and it looked very strange. The world under the moonlight was filled with magical colors. The west side of the room was shrouded in thick fog, the east side was filled with a large number of zombies, the south side was a black river, and the north side was a path filled with shattered bones. The path was filled with bare locust trees, and there was no end in sight. Just as Feng Qi was surveying his surroundings, a low roar attracted his attention. He turned around and saw a familiar zombie slowly standing up. It opened its mouth at him, and then sat down on the spot. Feng Qi, had everything in the dream been reset? Right now you're very confused. You don't understand why you're here again. So, you've decided to kill this little bastard first and head east. You'll kill everything in your way and absorb the bloodline power to strengthen your bloodline power and prefix title. Feng Qi, I don't want to. Oh no, you want to. Feng Qi, although he was unwilling in order to understand the truth of the dream, he still picked up a leg bone and threw it at the approaching zombie. Once, twice, thrice, when the zombie's head was smashed, he waited expectantly for the reward to appear. However, the blood-red light that he expected did not appear from the zombie's body. There was also no change in his status panel. Frail zombie, Feng Qi's strength level, ungraded prefix title, frail, 30% decrease in strength, bloodline, human, primary, bloodline evolution points, 1/1000 prefix title milestone, frail, can be leveled up first stage, 3%, prefix title first milestone, kill an undead to obtain title evolution points and increase evolution percentage. After killing the zombie, he was surprised to find that his bloodline evolution points were still at 1/1000. There was no change. Therefore, he had two guesses in his mind. First, he could not obtain bloodline evolution points from killing the same zombie over and over again. Second, the things obtained in the dream were similar to a record milestone. Only by breaking this record could he obtain new rewards. For example, he had obtained 1 bloodline evolution point in the last dream. So this time, he had to kill 2 zombies to break this record and obtain a second bloodline evolution point. If he could not break his record, then the record would be saved. Feng Qi did not think too much about which guesses were correct, because practice was the best answer. Feng Qi raised the leg bone and walked towards the east side where there were more zombies. This time, he learned to be smart and did not rashly approach the area where the zombies were gathered. In the last dream, he discovered a special characteristic of the zombies. They did not have sight or hearing. Last time, when he threw the bone to attract the zombies, they turned a blind eye to it. The sound of the bone falling to the ground did not alarm them. However, when he got closer, all the zombies were like cats that smelled fish. They all turned around and pounced on him. That was why he guessed that the zombies should have a sensing distance. If he walked into their sensing range, the zombies would be activated and attack any living being that entered their sensing range. In order to verify his guess, Feng Qi walked forward in small steps. He tried to find the sensing range of the zombies to prevent himself from being surrounded and killed. Chapter 4. Bang! The leg bone smashed into the zombie's head, causing the ball of flesh to shatter. A thin blood mist emerged from the zombie's body and drilled into Feng Qi's body. Frail zombie, Feng Qi strength rank, ungraded prefix title, frail, 30% decrease in strength, bloodline, human, primary, bloodline evolution points, 13/1000 frail, can be leveled up first stage, 39%, prefix title first milestone, kill an undead to obtain title evolution points and increase evolution percentage. At this time, Feng Qi had already killed 13 zombies. He already had an answer to his previous 2 guesses. Just as he had thought before, there was a prerequisite for obtaining bloodline evolution points in the strange dreamscape. For example, if he obtained 10 bloodline evolution points in the first dream, he would have to kill 10 zombies the second time he entered the dream. Only by killing the 11th zombie would he obtain new bloodline evolution points. It was like a milestone. Only after passing the previous milestone would he be able to obtain more bloodline evolution points. As he continued to head east, Feng Qi's hunting efficiency gradually increased. He had already grasped the trick to killing zombies. The zombies did not have much fighting strength and did not have the ability to think. They could only sense the distance between them and attack when they were 15 meters away. After grasping the approximate distance, he was no longer attacked by the zombies. In order to ensure his own safety, he even specifically targeted those living dead who were crippled or missing limbs. As his bloodline evolution points increased, Feng Qi discovered something strange. His rotten and damaged body was actually growing pink flesh. Now, every time he obtained bloodline evolution points, his body would have a slight change. If he continued to kill, he felt that he might be able to become a new person in the strange dream. As he walked along the path filled with bones, the zombies in front of him did not move at all. They were like scarecrows in a paddy field, swaying with the wind. As he continued to kill, Feng Qi did not feel tired at all. Instead, as his bloodline evolution points increased, he felt more energetic. Die! As he smashed down, his leg bone smashed into the head of a crippled living dead, crushing the sarcoma in his head. Immediately after, a bloody mist surged into Feng Qi's body. After absorbing the blood mist, he realized that his body had undergone obvious changes. It was much more intense than the previous times. He called out his status panel, and sure enough, there were changes. Normal zombie, Feng Qi's strength level. Ungraded prefix title. Normal, no additional or additional effect, bloodline. Human, primary, bloodline evolution points. 34/1000 prefix title milestone. Normal, upgradable stage 2, 1%, prefix title second milestone. Kill an undead to obtain title evolution points and increase evolution percentage. The information on the attribute panel made Feng Qi realize that the change of the prefix title could directly affect his physical condition. Previously, his prefix title was frail, so he had always felt a sense of weakness lingering in his heart. Now that his prefix title had been upgraded to normal, the feeling of weakness had disappeared, as if he had broken free of his shackles. He tried to jump, clench his fist, and familiarize himself with his strengthened body. He then prepared to continue hunting undead. At this time, a line of text suddenly appeared in his mind. You turned your head to look at your 3:00 direction. You discovered that the black monolith in the distance is very strange, so you decided to check it out. Feng Qi was speechless. Following the narration, he turned his head to look at his 3:00 direction. He discovered that there was a 2-meter-tall black monolith next to a locust tree a few dozen meters away. He walked in front of the monolith and carefully examined it. The monolith was weather-beaten, and there were clear signs of erosion. The words on the monolith had also become blurry, but Feng Qi could still roughly see what was written on it. Star City Fallout Shelter. Wait, Star City? Seeing the words on the monolith, Feng Qi could not help but be stunned. This was because Star City was the city he was in the real world, but there was no fallout shelter in the city. Although the real world that was gradually being eroded by the domain was very dangerous, the closest domain to Star City was 500 kilometers away. Therefore, Star City was far from the danger level of being covered by the domain. It was considered a safe zone, so there was no need to build a shelter. Puzzled, Feng Qi carefully examined the monolith, trying to find an answer. You discovered that there is a blood trough under the monolith. It seems that you can drip your blood to test it. So you bit your finger and dripped your blood on the blood trough. Why should I listen to you? Why should I bite my finger just because you told me to? Then, why don't you try biting your toes? Feng Qi was speechless. In the end, he listened to the narration and bit open his almost rotten right finger. Accompanied by a foul smell, black blood flowed down and dripped into the blood trough under the monolith. After a short wait, a mechanical voice suddenly came from the black monolith. Bloodline test completed. Human is allowed to enter Star City Fallout Shelter. The black monolith slowly moved away, revealing a passage. Under the moonlight, he could see that the passage made of metal was covered in rust, as if it had not been used for a long time. Filled with curiosity, Feng Qi stepped into the passage. Suddenly, the lights in front of him flickered. The lights embedded in the metal passage turned on one by one, illuminating the way forward. The passage was about 100 meters long and slanted downward. When he reached the end, his vision suddenly opened up. What appeared before him was an underground plaza filled with all kinds of mechanical instruments. The underground plaza was surrounded by iron doors, all of which were tightly shut at the moment. You discovered a huge instrument placed in the center of the underground shelter, so you decided to go and check it out. Okay. I'll do whatever you say. If that's the case, please cut off your brother. Feng Qi was speechless. If it were not for the fact that he could not see the narration, he would have rolled up his sleeves and fought with the narration. The huge instrument in the center of the underground plaza was shaped like a brain. In front of it was a control panel, and in front of the control panel was a huge display screen, which was covered in dust. When he came in front of the control panel, Feng Qi's eyes were attracted by the red on button on the control panel. Yes, that's the button. You pressed it without hesitation. He reached out and pressed the start button. The machine trembled, and the dusty screen lit up. Multiple options appeared. Star City Historical Database, Territory Creature Database, Real-Time Update, External Situation Investigation, Remaining Supplies in the Shelter, Physical Condition of Shelter Residents, Cultivation Technique Information, Spell Information. Flipping through the table of contents, Feng Qi's eyes suddenly stopped at the time in the upper right corner of the screen. Today's date, March 28, 3528. Feng Qi was speechless. The date in the real world was 2023, but the date in the shelter was actually 3528, which was more than 1,500 years away from the real world. At this moment, a terrifying guess emerged in his mind. He traveled through the dream and came to the future. In order to confirm this guess, he turned his eyes to the screen and tried to compare the data in the database with reality to find the answer. There was a search area in the database. Feng Qi thought about it and entered his name. In less than a moment, detailed information popped up on the screen. Feng Qi, Galactic Research Institution grade researcher. Age, 27 years old. Cause of death. An accident occurred when creating a new technique, causing the reverse flow of spirit energy. His meridians were broken, and then he fainted due to bleeding from all orifices. Date of death: June 1, 2032. Lifetime achievements: Honors Researcher of the Galactic Research Institute, Grade D Human Elite Medal, Outstanding Graduate of Star City High School, Grade B Technique Assistant Researcher Evaluation. A very promising technique researcher, rated as a Grade B potential researcher by the Galactic Research Institute. However, due to his unyielding character, he made a major mistake in the research of a new technique. Regretfully, he died at the age of 27. Above the text introduction, there was also a photo. The man in the photo looked very similar to him, but he looked much more mature. His eyes revealed determination. Looking at the photo and text introduction, Feng Qi was stunned. The Galactic Research Institute, mentioned in the introduction, was one of the research institutes in the Galactic Academy that he was preparing to apply for. It was also his future dream. The credibility of this information quickly increased in his heart. So, I will die young? I don't believe it. I don't believe it either. The narration jumped out at the right time to encourage Feng Qi. Chapter 5. Realizing that the bizarre world in the dream was most likely the future, Feng Qi fell into deep thought. If the world in the dream is the future, does that mean that Star City will fall one day and be completely covered by the domain? Thinking of the desolate scene outside the shelter, Feng Qi's expression gradually turned solemn. I don't believe it. In order to verify this conjecture, He opened the historical database of Star City and tried to find the answer. However, what he saw next made him feel unwell. According to the records, about 500 years ago, all the cities were covered by the domain. The surviving humans could only dig shelters in the domain to survive, but in the end, they still went extinct. After reading the information recorded in the database, Feng Qi was in disbelief. Seeing the tragic ending of humans in the future, you can't help but clench your fists and teeth and roar in your heart, "I want to change the future and rewrite the ending of humans. Humans will never admit defeat." Awa. This time, Feng Qi did not talk back. Instead, he said with a serious expression, "If I change reality, will the future be changed? Every time the butterfly flaps its wings, it will trigger a series of chain reactions. You are as small as a drop of water, but you can also set off monstrous waves in the river of time." I understand now. At this moment, he suddenly understood why the narrator had guided him into the shelter. Obviously, there was something here that could change the future. The large amount of information stored in the database allowed him to foresee the future and find a lot of useful information. This information had all happened in the future, but it was important events that had not happened in the real world. Thinking of this, he could not help but ask curiously, "Narrator, am I the savior you have chosen?" Tut! Feng Qi was speechless. The narrator did not disappoint him. He was still as sharp-tongued as ever. When normal people faced this situation, they would definitely be shocked or even unable to accept it. They would feel that they were too small to shoulder the heavy responsibility. They would not be interested in being a savior at all. They would be fine as long as they were safe. However, Feng Qi accepted it calmly. Because at this moment, he thought of something that old Wang had once said in class in history. He said, "I don't know what the future of mankind will be like, but I know that no matter what difficulties, adversity, and desperation we humans face, we will never compromise or admit defeat. This is because fighting against adversity is a determination that is engraved in our bones, especially the people of Xia country. And this kind of mental strength can also be found in our myth. In Western mythology, fire was stolen by Prometheus, but in our Xia mythology, fire was created by the friction of people drilling wood to make fire. In the face of the apocalyptic flood, the Westerners hid in Noah's Ark to avoid the disaster. However, in our mythology, Yu the Great chose to fight against nature without entering his home 3 times. Ho-Yi shooting the sun, Jing Wei filling the sea, Quafu chasing the sun. Putting aside those mythical stories, the spiritual core of these stories was to never give up and never give up. If there was a problem, then solve it, not run away from it. Just like Yu Gong Shan, he did not choose to move or give up when faced with 2 mountains blocking his door. Instead, he decided to use his life's efforts and even the efforts of his descendants to fight against the mountains. The future of mankind is at stake, but we must always firmly believe that the future belongs to mankind. Dawn dispels the darkness. These words had made Feng Qi's blood boil, and he was deeply moved. And now there was an opportunity in front of him. If someone has to stand up, why can't it be me? In a flash, Feng Qi made a decision. He wanted to save mankind and the future. Looking at the screen, he began to flip through the information in the database. If there was anything that could promote the development of human civilization, technology would definitely be at the top. However, if there was anything that could help mankind defeat the monsters in the field, Feng Qi felt that it must be cultivation techniques. Although the advancement of technology could increase the productivity of society, cultivation techniques could help mankind complete the transformation of their life form. It was like being reborn from the ashes and becoming stronger than the creatures in the field. Modern cultivation techniques had been researched for less than 500 years, so many of them had disadvantages. For example, some cultivation techniques would cause damage to the body that was difficult to heal. Some cultivation techniques would make the cultivator unable to reproduce. Some cultivation techniques would even shorten the lifespan of the cultivator. After mankind mastered how to use spirit energy, new cultivation techniques were constantly developed. The old cultivation techniques were constantly improved and perfected, but they were still far from being perfect. He felt that after 1,500 years of development, the cultivation techniques in the database must have been improved many times. They would definitely be more perfect and excellent than the cultivation techniques that had only been developed for 500 years in the real world. He could definitely start from this aspect. Clicking on the cultivation technique column in the database, a series of names of cultivation techniques appeared. At the same time, a text box popped up on the screen. Visitor's Authority. Unable to read cultivation techniques above 5 stars. Remaining number of cultivation technique references. 1 remaining number of character references. 2 remaining number of historical references. 3. If you need to increase your authority, please log in to your resident or administrator account. The sudden pop-up caught him off guard. The world is already destroyed. Why is there such a **T restriction? Can't there be a little sharing spirit? Is it afraid of being stolen by the field creatures? Narrator, give me an authority account. Facing Feng Qi's request, the narrator did not respond. Helpless, he could only turn his gaze to the screen. Red Flame Kill, 8th set modified version. Cultivation Technique Creator, Wang Yehua. Cultivation Technique Rating, 2 stars. Cultivation Technique Introduction. After cultivating this cultivation technique, the spirit energy absorbed into the body can be transformed into fire attribute spirit energy to increase the lethality of the technique. However, the burden on the body will be increased, and the body will be damaged during cultivation. Cultivation note: not suitable for teenagers who are still in the developing stage. Diamond Bone Honing, 13th set modified version. Cultivation Technique Creator, Li Wui. Cultivation Technique Rating, 3 stars. Cultivation Technique Introduction, a cultivation technique that focuses on physical cultivation. After absorbing spirit energy into the body, it will temper the muscles, bones, and skin, and develop the physical strength of the body. Cultivation note: not suitable for teenagers who are still in the developing stage. Set 272. Cultivation Gymnastics, Responsibility of the Era. Set 272 set modified version. Cultivation Technique Creator, Unknown. Cultivation Technique Rating, 1 star. Cultivation Technique Introduction, a beginner cultivation technique that was born in the early days after the world changed. So far, it has been modified 271 times. It has the effect of strengthening the body, training the muscles and bones, and nourishing the body. Cultivation note: suitable for cultivation of all ages, but the spirit energy obtained from cultivation is relatively pure, and the effect on the bloodline level is relatively poor. Looking at the cultivation techniques listed on the screen, Feng Qi hesitated because the visitors only had one chance to check the cultivation technique. Feng Qi didn't know any of these cultivation techniques. The only one he was familiar with was the cultivation gymnastic. However, he had learned the 68th set of cultivation gymnastics, Young Eagle of the Era. There were 272 sets of cultivation gymnastics in the database, and it had been modified more than 200 times. In order to compare the effects, Feng Qi finally made a choice. He clicked on the details page of the 272nd set of cultivation gymnastics, Responsibility of the Era. Suddenly, a video popped up on the screen. A majestic man in a military uniform opened his hands and said with a serious expression, "Now, follow my rhythm and start training. Responsibility of the Era." 1 2 3 4 2 2 2 3 4. As the background music sounded, Feng Qi began to follow the man in the video. He spun, jumped, twisted his limbs, and tried to sense the spirit energy around him according to the rhythm of his breathing. A few minutes later, dense spirit energy light spots appeared in his sight. These spirit energy light spots were slowly absorbed by his body as he moved. Compared to the 68th set of cultivation gymnastics, the 272nd set of cultivation gymnastics allowed him to sense spirit energy 10 times faster and absorb spirit energy 3 times faster. This discovery made him very surprised. At this moment, Feng Qi made a decision to bring this cultivation gymnastics back to reality and promote it. He felt that if modern teenagers used the future version of cultivation gymnastics as a foundation, it would definitely be of great help to their personal growth. This seemingly simple cultivation gymnastics might cause earth-shaking changes in the future 1,500 years under the influence of the butterfly effect. Thinking of this, Feng Qi felt that he seemed to have found a way to make human beings rise quickly. He wanted modern humans to stand on his shoulders and develop, and he was standing on the shoulders of the future. Chapter 6. In terms of technique research, Feng Qi was very talented. He was not boasting, but he was definitely the first in his grade. He was the little genius that all the teachers talked about. Following the movements of the instructor in the video, he quickly grasped the essentials of the 272 sets of gymnastics. As time passed, Feng Qi discovered a problem in his cultivation. He found that his body could not store spirit energy at all. The spirit energy that was absorbed into his body would flow out of his body in a moment. He could only guess that it might have something to do with his current state of being a zombie. Therefore, Feng Qi decided to learn the gymnastics first and try it out when he returned to reality. After watching the video several times, Feng Qi grasped the essentials of the gymnastic. He decided to bring the gymnastics back to reality. He felt that it was not enough for him to learn it. The most important thing was to understand the path of the technique. Because bringing back an improved version of the technique from the future would definitely cause a sensation. He needed a reasonable explanation. After thinking for a while, Feng Qi had an idea. He decided to set himself up as a genius in the field of technique research. This way, he would not be questioned by the outside world if he continued to research new technique. He would gradually become accustomed to it. Even if he did not develop a new technique for a long time, it would be considered abnormal. When the time came for him to introduce a brand new technique, the outside world would also think, after all, it was developed by Feng Qi, a super genius that only appears once every 10,000 years. It's not rare. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on his face. So be it. You don't even care about your face. Super genius? Hetue. The sharp-tongued narration appeared at the right time and interrupted Feng Qi's imagination. After confirming that he had mastered the future version of the gymnastics, Feng Qi did not look at other techniques because he had already used up the number of times that he could look at the techniques with his visitor's permission. After clicking on the search page again, he decided to look at the people around him and see what their endings were in the future. First, it was his best friend Mo Fei. After clicking on the search button, the search results appeared on the screen. Because there were too many people with the same name, he clicked on the filter button and adjusted the historical time to 2000 to 2300 and changed the gender to male. He clicked the search button again, and there were only about 10 people left on the list. In one of the photos, he immediately recognized his best friend Mo Fei. In the photo, Mo Fei had white hair and wore a black eye patch over his left eye. His face was thin and he was wearing a blue uniform. He clicked on the details page and words appeared. Mo Fei, Viper Technological Research Institute, staff. Age, 90, cause of death. In his early years, he was exposed to strong radiation from psionic substances when he was researching psionic substances, which left the root of his illness. At the age of 90, his old injuries relapsed, and he passed away in the 3rd United Military Hospital. Date of death, March 18, 2123. Lifetime achievements, Honors Level B Staff Member of the Viper Research Institute, Level B Elite Human Medal, outstanding graduate of the Academy of Science and Technology, creator of the Robot X series, researcher of the virtual reality technology project X. Fei's achievements made him click his tongue. Not only did he live to the age of 90, but he also obtained a lot of lifetime achievement. Feng Qi thought back to the times when he chatted with Fei. Fei had always talked about his lofty ambitions. Now, Feng Qi realized that Fei wasn't bragging at all. He was the only one who didn't accomplish anything and even died at such a young age. After closing Fei's details page, words popped up on the screen. Visitor's authority, character information search remaining. One time, is there an end to this? People with authority will die a horrible death. With only one more search opportunity left, Feng Qi started to think about whose information he should check. After thinking for a while, he entered the name Wang Jinxing, Lao Wang in history. After filtering, the details of Lao Wang in history appeared. Wang Jinxing, great historical figure. Age, 187 years old. Cause of death. Visitor's authority is not restricted. Historical achievements. Visitor's authority is not restricted. Evaluation. At the age of 39, after realizing that teaching couldn't change the fate of mankind, he resolutely applied to Star City University to study technique. After graduating, he joined the Tiger Soul Institute with excellent result. His research contributed greatly to the advancement of mankind's evolution and development, benefiting future generations. Feng Qi. The moody history Lao Wang in class was actually so outstanding in the evaluation of future people that he was even regarded as a great historical figure. This was something that Feng Qi didn't expect. But what made him puzzled was why Lao Wang's files needed to be checked with authority. Also, the cultivation techniques in the database that were rated 5 stars and above also needed the corresponding authority to read them. Logically speaking, fighting against the invasion of a domain creature required the joint efforts of all mankind, so there shouldn't be a restriction on sharing cultivation techniques with all mankind. Therefore, setting the access authority seemed to be putting the cart before the horse. Was there a hidden reason behind this? At this moment, a voiceover appeared and interrupted Feng Qi's thoughts. Turn your head and look in the direction of 6 o'clock. Danger is approaching. Hearing this, Feng Qi hurriedly looked back and instantly saw a figure wrapped in black fog floating out of the metal tunnel and into the underground square. He could vaguely see 3 glowing red eyes in the black fog. The figure in the black fog had a twisted rune crystal imprinted on its forehead. A domain creature? Although he had never come into contact with a domain creature, he often heard the teachers talk about them in class and knew that they had rune crystals imprinted on their bodies. He also knew how terrifying their strength was. Voiceover, I need your help. Give me some pointers. Don't run because your speed can't compare to a domain creature's. The correct way is to look into its eyes and stare at it, then yell, "What are you looking at?" This way you'll die with more dignity. Feng Qi, who was staring at the domain creature according to the instructions, was gradually dumbfounded when he heard the latter half of the voiceover. At this moment, the domain creature wrapped in black fog suddenly launched an attack. Its body flashed, leaving behind afterimages as it pounced toward him. Waiting for death wasn't in Feng Qi's character. He immediately clenched his fist to meet it. But before his fist could land, the sharp teeth in the black fog had already pierced through the black fog and pierced his throat. The thick black fog quickly enveloped him, and his consciousness blurred. The familiar chewing sound rang in his ears, and his vision gradually dimmed. When he opened his eyes, he saw the gray ceiling. The notebook on his desk was still playing the Basics of Cultivation Technique Research video. Realizing that he had returned to reality, Feng Qi let out a long sigh of relief. Even though he had experienced death once, the suffocating feeling when he was on the verge of death still left him with lingering fear. Turning his head, he saw that Fei was seriously revising. The clock on the upper right corner showed that it was 11:20 p.m. He clearly remembered that when he was about to sleep for a while, it was also at this time. In other words, he had stayed in the future dream for so long, but time in reality had actually stopped. Apart from that, Feng Qi also realized that he had become stronger again. This time, he could clearly feel that his bloodline value had increased. It was as if he had endless strength in his body. As his heart beat, blood flowed through his body, making a sound like a surging tide. Just as he had guessed before, when he became stronger in the dream, his body in reality would also receive synchronized feedback. Chapter 7. Late at night, dark clouds covered the moon. The night wind blew gently. Other than the freshmen, the other students were already on vacation, so the field was empty. There was no one holding hands, so it was very quiet. At this time, Feng Qi came to a corner of the field and stood still, closing his eyes. According to the starting posture of the gymnastics he learned in the dream, he slowly opened his arms, then stretched his right arm forward, drawing an arc, bent his knees, jumping, spinning, twisting his body. After a while, he really sensed the spirit energy floating around him. Usually, when he performed the gymnastics, it took about 10 minutes to sense the spirit energy floating in the air. Now, using the future version of the gymnastics, it only took 1 minute. Even the speed of absorbing spirit energy was several times faster. But soon, a problem appeared. Feng Qi found that the spirit energy absorbed into his body was still unable to gather in his dantian, and it would quickly dissipate from his body. This discovery made him realize that the body in the dream and the body in reality seemed to have some kind of connection, causing him to be unable to practice in reality. Can I only become stronger in the dream? It's not impossible. Anyway, my goal is the Milky Way Research Institute. I don't care about personal strength. The thick-skinned Feng Qi calmly accepted his own change. Then he began to think about how to promote the future version of the gymnastics in reality. While thinking, Feng Qi gradually came up with an idea. Although he didn't have the contact channels of the major martial arts institutes, and he didn't know the top people on the internet, he knew Lao Wang. Lao Wang was different from most of the teachers in the school. He received an invitation to join the Tiger Soul Institute, and he was also an outstanding graduate of Star City University. As long as he was willing, he definitely had a channel to send the future version of the gymnastics to the Tiger Soul Institute for testing. After passing the test, it could quickly be promoted to the whole society. And the achievement of improving the martial arts would also allow him to be specially recruited to work in any institute of higher learning. Since he decided to be a savior, Feng Qi didn't plan to keep a low profile anymore. I'm not the male protagonist of a novel. Why should I pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger? Low profile my ass. If I have the ability, I must be high profile. After making up his mind, he decided to look for Lao Wang. With regards to Lao Wang's daily routine, Feng Qi was very familiar with it. He often interacted with it. Even when he chose the path of cultivation method research, it was also because Lao Wang believed that he had the talent for cultivation method research and recommended him. Wine in his left hand and a cigarette in his right. Wang Jinxing sat on the rooftop balcony of the teaching building with a heavy heart. He had just received a notification that his former roommate from the same school had died in a battle with a domain creature. This news was a huge blow to him. He vaguely remembered the promise he made with his roommate at the graduation party 12 years ago. Together, we will fight for the future of mankind. After graduation, his roommate joined the domain battle team and fought on the front lines against domain creatures. He gave up the opportunity to work at the Tiger Soul Institute and chose to become a history teacher. After taking a sip of wine, Wang Jinxing's eyes were hazy from the alcohol. Suddenly, he noticed a figure practicing gymnastics under the streetlight in front of the teaching building. The exam is about to start. Instead of studying, you still have the mood to train here? As he observed, Wang Jinsheng's expression gradually changed. He realized that the gymnastics performed by the blurry figure in the distance was different from the original version. There were obvious changes in the trajectory of the body's movements. The continuous movements were smoother than the gymnastics. At this moment, the person practicing the gymnastics under the streetlight was Feng Qi. He knew that every night, Lao Wang would drink wine and look at the stars on the rooftop balcony of the teaching building, so he specially came here. In order to let Wang Jinsheng see more clearly, he slowed down his movements and patiently practiced over and over again. In order to confirm his conjecture, Wang Jinsheng put down the bottle of wine and stood up. He followed Feng Qi's movements and began to spin, jump, and twist his limbs. In less than a minute, Wang Jinsheng sensed the spirit energy light spots in the air. After continuing to practice for a while, Wang Jinsheng stopped his movements with a shocked expression. There's something wrong with this set of gymnastics. He realized that this set of gymnastics was actually 10 times faster than normal gymnastics. The speed of absorbing spirit energy was also more than 3 times faster. If this set of gymnastics was popularized, it would have a huge impact on the future development of mankind. He could already imagine it. If the young were strong, the country would be strong. If the new generation of mankind practiced this set of gymnastics as a foundation, they would definitely go further than their predecessors. Wang Jinsheng, who cared about the future of mankind, felt the sadness in his heart disappear at this moment. A ball of fire burned in his chest. He now wanted to know who that person was and where he got this improved set of gymnastics. With this thought in mind, Wang Jinsheng jumped down from the rooftop and stood not far behind Feng Qi. Feng Qi! Wang Jinsheng shouted with uncertainty. Hearing the shout, Feng Qi grinned and then turned to Wang Jinsheng. Mr. Wang, what's the matter? You did it on purpose, didn't you? You purposely performed this set of gymnastics in front of me so that I could see it. Wang Jinsheng immediately glared at him. Come with me, let's talk. It's too late. How about tomorrow? I still have to revise. Hearing Feng Qi's refusal, the veins on Wang Jinsheng's forehead throbbed. He stepped forward and grabbed Feng Qi's neck and dragged him towards the school building. Brat, I haven't settled the score with you for what happened in class today. How dare you put on airs in front of me? Lao Wang, let go. I'm having trouble breathing. Your favorite student is going to die. Are you coming or not? Let's go. Feng Qi decisively admitted defeat and begged for mercy. Feng Qi admired Wang Jinsheng from the bottom of his heart. Before looking at the future evaluation, he had a rough understanding of Wang Jinsheng. He knew that Wang Jinsheng was once invited to join the Tiger Soul Institute and was a very promising talent in the research of cultivation technique. Wang Jinsheng was also very easygoing. He was like a big brother who could take a joke and get along well with them. However, Wang Jinsheng was very strict in class. It was as if he was a different person. When he followed Wang Jinsheng to the top of the school building, his expression suddenly became serious. Feng Qi, where did you learn the improved version of the gymnastics? If I said that I researched and figured it out myself, would you believe me? Feng Qi grinned. Believe? Like hell I'd believe you. Wang Jinsheng couldn't help but stare. In his opinion, researching cultivation methods was not something that could be done by random attempts like a blind cat running into a dead mouse. This was because the circulation route of every cultivation technique was related to the body's acupoints. Therefore, the body was also known as the body's divine treasure in cultivation. The cultivation technique of absorbing spirit energy was the source of the divine treasure's potential. There were 52 single acupoints, 309 double acupoints, and 50 extrameridian acupoints in the human body. In total, there were 720 acupoints. The spirit energy that was absorbed into the body had to travel between the different acupoints according to the cultivation technique's route to unlock the divine treasure's potential and strengthen the bloodline power and physical strength. If there was a problem with the cultivation technique, it would cause the cultivator's chi and blood to become chaotic and even paralyzed. Therefore, even the researchers of the Tiger Soul Institute, the Joint Research Institute, and other top cultivation technique research institutions did not dare to experiment carelessly with the research of cultivation technique. Now that he heard Feng Qi say that he used his own ability to explore and improve the gymnastics, he found it hard to believe. Although he knew that Feng Qi was very talented in the study of cultivation techniques, Wang Jinxing felt that he still had a long way to go before he could truly improve the cultivation technique. Chapter 8. Feng Qi looked at Wang Jinxing and said with a serious expression, "I admit that luck played a part, but it's because I improved the gymnastics." Hearing this, Wang Jinxing fell into deep thought. Wang Jinxing had a detailed understanding of Feng Qi's family background. He knew that his parents used to be members of a domain battle group, but they went missing during an operation to disperse the domain. Therefore, Feng Qi had always been alone and lived in a boarding school. The school was a closed management system, so Feng Qi couldn't come into contact with people outside the school. As for the school, he didn't think that anyone had the ability to improve the gymnastics that had been modified many times. Feng Qi said that he had improved his gymnastics training by himself. It seemed that other than this explanation, there was no better answer. Thinking about how Feng Qi wasn't feeling well in the morning, Wang Jinxing had a guess in his heart. "You weren't feeling well in the morning. Is it related to the gymnastics that you modified?" "I'm not sure, but I can't rule it out." Before he figured out the secret of the mysterious dream, Feng Qi didn't want to expose himself, so he chose to answer against his will. Wang Jinxing patted Feng Qi's shoulder with concern, then his expression turned serious. "Don't try it again in the future. The path of cultivation is related to the acupoints in the body, and there are many fatal acupoints in the human body. If you're not careful, you might be paralyzed and become a complete cripple. Try it again in the future when you learn more about improving the technique." "Feng Qi, I have a request now, and I hope you can agree to it." "Say it, but I might not agree to it." Although he said this, he could already guess what Lao Wang wanted to say to him. "I want to send your modified gymnastics to the Tiger Soul Research Institute so that they can test your modified gymnastic. If the test results are feasible, it will be promoted all over the world. You will also be rewarded. It will also be of great help to your future." "No problem." Feng Qi agreed without hesitation. Feng Qi's answer made Wang Jinxing smile. "Stinking brat, as expected of my student, you didn't disappoint me." "That's right. You always tell us that personal selfishness can't be compared to the future of mankind. I came to you this time to promote my improved training exercises." "You're worth teaching." "No, it's because teacher taught me well." After flattering each other, Feng Qi suddenly said, "By the way, Lao Wang, do you want me to show you a few more times?" "All right, I'll take another look and see if there are any differences." Feng Qi took 2 steps back and stood still. Then, he began to practice his gymnastics again. From time to time, he would pause at key points so that Wang Jinxing could see more clearly. Wang Jinxing had carefully watched the videos in the database several times on how to teach. During this time, he constantly explained the key points of the movements to deepen Wang Jinxing's understanding of the future version of training gymnastics. After watching Feng Qi's demonstration, Wang Jinxing quickly grasped the gist of it. He followed Feng Qi's movements and already had a decent grasp of it. When Feng Qi demonstrated it for the 3rd time, Wang Jinxing was already completely proficient and had grasped the breathing rhythm during cultivation. After stopping, Feng Qi looked at Wang Jinxing, who was still in deep thought, and asked, Lao Wang, have you ever thought of not being a teacher? Wang Jinxing, who was in deep thought, was puzzled when he heard this. He then shook his head. I have, but I gave up. Why? All the teachers and students in the school know that with your graduation results, you can actually go to a better place. Staying here is a complete waste of your talent. Some people even said that you're afraid of fighting with domain creatures, so you chose to be a teacher here to live a comfortable life. You're a coward. He knew very well whether Wang Jinxing was a coward or not. However, he wanted to know why Wang Jinxing gave up the opportunity to work at the Tiger Soul Institute after graduation and chose to stay here to teach. Hearing this, Wang Jinxing couldn't help but laugh and scold him. Why do you care so much? Go back and revise. If you're not feeling well, go to bed early. Can you tell me? Feng Qi continued to ask. Hearing this, Wang Jinxing pondered for a moment. Then, he picked up the bottle on the ground and took a sip. There's no harm in telling you. Actually, my initial plan for my future wasn't to be a teacher. After graduation, I planned to either join the Domain Combat Team or enter the Cultivation Method Research Institute to modify the flaws of existing cultivation methods, perfect them, or research new cultivation method. However, an accident changed my mind. Looking at the curious Feng Qi, Wang Jinxing took another sip of wine and continued. Before graduation, there was a domain combat training. After entering the domain field, my companions and I were attacked by domain creatures. During that time, we resisted with all our might and finally fought our way out. However, 3 of my companions died. Is this related to your unwillingness to work at the Tiger Soul Institute? Feng Qi was puzzled. During that combat test, I saw the cowardice and fear suppressed in the hearts of several of my companions. They were strong but didn't have the courage to resist when faced with domain creatures. They even almost dragged down the other team members. From that moment on, I understood one thing. Physical weakness can be cured, but mental weakness is incurable. After the mission ended, I thought about it a lot and finally made a decision. I gave up the opportunity to work at the Tiger Soul Institute and became a history teacher. I wanted to solve this problem from the root. Hearing this, Feng Qi already understood what Wang Jinxing was thinking. Many people said behind his back that Lao Wang gave up history because he was cowardly. However, he felt that Lao Wang gave up this precious opportunity for the future of mankind. During the lesson, Wang Jinxing was extremely serious. He would firmly tell them that mankind would definitely win in the future. He would also often tell them about the history of mankind's resistance against domain creatures and introduce those great people who had made great contributions to mankind as well as those who had sacrificed themselves bravely. He hoped that they would follow his example. He would also often publish articles on the forums of various universities to encourage those who were mentally weak. He hoped that they would understand that only by constantly striving for self-improvement and stubbornly resisting to the end could mankind have a future. Wang Jinxing, who seemed carefree and casual, actually gave himself a lot of pressure. He yearned to awaken all of mankind spiritually. He also yearned more than anyone else for mankind to usher in the final victory. Looking at the drunken Wang Jinxing, Feng Qi was silent for a long time before he said, "The influence of a teacher is limited. The influence of a teacher is ultimately limited. You can only change a portion of people, but you can't change everyone. I don't think you should stay here. You should head to the Tiger Soul Research Institute and try your best. You might be able to develop a cultivation technique that is suitable for all humans to cultivate. As long as you succeed, you will benefit all of humanity." After checking the database of the future, he knew that Wang Jinxing would eventually give up teaching and return to the Tiger Soul Institute. From then on, he would live a glorious life. He would develop a series of cultivation techniques that were more suitable for mankind and make an indelible historical contribution to the rise of mankind. He would even be named a great person of history. At this moment, he wanted to change history and try to make Wang Jinxing wake up early and return to the path he should take instead of wasting his talent by staying here. The path of developing cultivation techniques is not as simple as you think. Perhaps I won't be able to develop a cultivation technique even if I work hard for my entire life. I'm not as powerful as you think. Wang Jinxing shook his head and sighed. As he spoke, he took a bottle of wine from a cardboard box at the side. He opened the bottle cap with his teeth and took a big gulp. Someone has to step forward. If you don't try, how do you know you can't do it? If you really want mankind to obtain the final victory, you should take the most difficult path. Just like how I improved the cultivation gymnastics. If mankind had more cultivation techniques like this, would we still be afraid of domain creatures? Feng Qi's words stunned Wang Jinxing. Just as Feng Qi said, he was only one person after all. If he wanted to use teaching to awaken cowards, his influence would be extremely limited. However, if he could develop a very complete cultivation technique, the situation would be completely different. The cultivation technique would definitely be promoted and affect all of mankind. If there were more complete cultivation techniques, humans would be able to obtain more power than domain creatures during cultivation. They would no longer need to be afraid of the invasion of domain creatures. Lao Wang, I'm leaving first. Let's talk when I have time. After speaking, Feng Qi turned and left. Feng Qi didn't know if he could change the future, but he wanted to try. Someone had to step forward. This sentence was not only said to Wang Jinxing, but also to himself. He didn't know what the future would be like, but at least he tried and had no regrets. Looking at Feng Qi's departing figure, Wang Jinxing's mind was in a mess. After listening to Feng Qi's words, he realized that there was actually a surge of impulse in his heart. It was as if a seed had taken root and sprouted in the depths of his heart, growing uncontrollably. The path of developing cultivation techniques is fraught with difficulties, but someone has to step forward. Why can't that person be me? Brat, you actually made me waver. As he muttered, a trace of fighting spirit ignited in Wang Jinxing's eyes. At this moment, the butterfly's wings were quietly flapping, causing the direction of reality to change. At some point, the dark clouds in the sky dispersed. Wang Jinxing looked up. The bright moon was in the sky, and the stars were shining brightly. Chapter 9. Back in the dorm, Mo Fei was still revising. His computer screen was playing The History of Modern Weapons. His pen hand kept jotting down the key points in his notebook. After greeting him, Feng Qi washed up and fell asleep on his bed. When he opened his eyes again, everything was so familiar. He turned around and saw the familiar living dead struggling to get up from the ground. Then, it did a split on the spot. He did not waste time and picked up a leg bone from the ground. Before the living dead could attack, he smashed it on its head. After a few heavy blows, the living dead stopped moving. Feng Qi then continued east, killing the living dead along the way. There were gains and losses. Since he couldn't become stronger in the real world, he was prepared to become stronger in the dream world. Perhaps it would be easier to become stronger in the dream world by killing monsters in the dream world than by cultivating in the real world. As he moved forward, he held someone's leg bone in his hand and went on a killing spree. Feng Qi did not let go of anyone who was missing an arm, broken a leg, or had difficulty moving. Killed a living dead. Gained 1 blood point. Title, Normal, Milestone Completion, 21%. Killed a living dead. Gained 1 blood point. Title, Normal, Milestone Completion, 24%. With each kill, the flesh on the surface of his body gradually grew. In some places, pink lines of muscle had even formed. Aside, if I absorb enough blood points, will I be able to become a new person in the dream? Feng Qi was confused by the changes in his body. He could not help but ask. You might evolve into an insanely muscular monster. Don't think too much about it. Just let fate take its course. Feng Qi was speechless. He did not really care if he could become a new person in the dream. What he cared about was getting rid of the rotting smell on his body. Otherwise, he would despise himself every time he entered the dream. After killing another living dead, Feng Qi threw away the broken leg bone in his hand. He picked up a new bone on the ground. After testing its hardness, he continued on his way. Looking up, in the vast wilderness, there were countless figures of the living dead. But in Feng Qi's eyes, they were all experienced babies that could help him become stronger. Just as Feng Qi was about to continue, the ground trembled. A tentacle suddenly rose from the pile of bones and wrapped around his waist. Then, the pile of bones in front of him was pushed away, revealing the face of the subterranean creature. It was a scarlet worm, similar to the death worm in modern myth. At this moment, it was twisting its fat body, opening its mouth full of sharp teeth and biting at Feng Qi. After all, Feng Qi was a real man who had experienced death several times. He did not panic at all. He decisively waved the bone club and smashed the worm's head, leaving a dent on it. The worm was in pain, and its tail began to tighten around Feng Qi's waist, causing his waist to become thinner. Feng Qi, who could not feel the pain, was not affected at all. He raised the bone club and smashed the worm's head again. Green liquid splashed everywhere. Soon, the worm lost its ability to fight and softly fell to the ground. However, Feng Qi did not intend to let it go. After breaking free, he smashed the worm's head again until a bloody mist appeared and entered his body. The feeling of absorbing blood and qi made him feel comfortable. However, this feeling only lasted for a few seconds before disappearing. He called out his status panel and noticed that his status had changed again. Tenacity, normal living dead, Feng Qi strength rank, ungraded prefix title, normal, no prefix, tenacity LVL1, increase muscle tenacity by 1%, bloodline, human, primary, bloodline evolution points, 43/1000 prefix milestone, normal, can be leveled up, second milestone, 33% tenacity LVL1 can be leveled up 2%. Why is there another prefix title? After noticing the change in his status, Feng Qi suddenly realized that when he killed monsters in the dream, other than gaining bloodline evolution points, he could also take away part of the monster's abilities and make it his prefix title. Thinking up to here, he immediately asked, "Aside, is my guess wrong? Will I be able to obtain abilities from different monsters and unlock the prefix title evolution milestone?" "Yes. Therefore, in the future, your name will become very, very, very long. For example, Gale, poison immunity, Eagle Eye speed, War Hammer, sharp, wisdom, tenacity, extremely strong living dead, Feng Qi." Feng Qi was speechless. After obtaining a cheat-like ability, Feng Qi was in a good mood. He then raised the bone club and continued to kill. Killed living dead, obtained 1 blood point. Prefix title, normal, milestone completion, 69% killed living dead, obtained 1 blood point. Prefix title, normal, milestone completion, 72%. Along the way, he encountered a few more worms. These worms had soft and tough skin. He tried to use the bone spear to kill them, but it could not pierce through their skin. The bone club was the best. Under the beating of the bone club, these worms became dead worms in the end, contributing his bloodline evolution points and upgrading his title milestone value. After walking and stopping, and taking a small detour, Feng Qi returned to the shelter's stone tablet. After thinking about it, he decided to go in and take a look. After biting his finger and dripping his blood, the stone tablet moved and revealed a rusty metal passage. After entering the underground plaza through the metal passage, he went straight to the database in the center of the underground plaza. Although he could not cultivate, the cultivation techniques in the database had proven that they could be used in the real world. Therefore, he decided to learn a few more cultivation techniques and bring them back to the real world. The first step of a genius: plagiarize the database. After arriving in front of the database and pressing the Start button, the control panel trembled. The screen covered in dust lit up and a list of options appeared. Before learning other techniques, he wanted to see if his future evaluation would change because of the changes in the real world. After entering his name in the search area and filtering, a detailed introduction appeared. Feng Qi, Galactic Research Institute researcher. Age, 28. Cause of death. Unauthorized access. Date of death: June 1, 2033. Lifetime achievements: Honor Galactic Academy B-Level Excellent Graduate, Gymnastics Training Version 2. 0 Modifier, C-Level Human Elite Medal, Outstanding Contribution to Human Development Award. Chapter 10. Looking at the evaluation information on the screen, Feng Qi was in disbelief. Although in the detailed information, he would still die young, but the future had changed. In particular, there was an additional achievement in his evaluation: Gymnastics 2. 0 Modifier, which was obviously related to the 272nd set of gymnastics he brought back from the dream. Realizing that the changes in reality would affect the future, he immediately opened the technique column to see if the gymnastics in the future had also changed. He opened the technique list, and the name of the technique appeared. After searching for the technique information, the name of the technique displayed on the screen caught Feng Qi off guard. Gymnastics. Version 337. A technique creator. Unknown technique rating: 2 stars. Technique introduction. A beginner-level technique, born in the early decades of the World Revolution, has been modified 238 times so far, has the effect of strengthening the body, tempering the muscles and bones, and nourishing the body. Cultivation note: suitable for training of all ages, but the purity of the spirit energy obtained from training is low, and the effect of improving the bloodline level is poor. It is suitable for young people to build a foundation. F***ck. Feng Qi blurted out the word F***ck, confirming his guess. The gymnastics he brought back from the future dream allowed modern humans to develop from the 272nd set of gymnastics, and after more than 1,500 years of continuous improvement, it became version 337. If the future can affect reality, and reality can also affect the future, then I will be stuck with a bug. Bringing back version 337 of gymnastics from the future will affect reality, and then the future will change and improve it to version 5.0 of gymnastics. Then I will bring back version 5.0 of gymnastics from the future, and improve it to version 8.0 of gymnastics in the future. As long as the cycle continues endlessly, I will definitely be able to perfect the ordinary gymnastics into a god-level cultivation technique. Feng Qi became more and more excited, and he felt that there was hope for the future of mankind. At this moment, the voiceover jumped out at an inappropriate time. Good idea, but reality is always a little cruel. What does that mean? Facing his question, the voiceover did not reply and disappeared. Feng Qi was already used to the voiceover appearing and disappearing mysteriously. Since the voiceover did not answer, he did not ask anymore. At this moment, he realized that the future could affect reality and reality could change the future. Amidst his surprise, he suddenly thought of something. Now, the future had changed a little because of him, but the end of the human race's extinction had not been changed. Otherwise, Star City would not be filled with piles of bones, but a bustling modern city. Therefore, he was a little worried that those outstanding people in history would also be affected by the wings of this little butterfly. The first thing he thought of was the old king of history, Wang Jinxing. Perhaps because of what he said last night, Lao Wang, who was influenced by his words last night, only lived an ordinary life. He did not create any more value for mankind, nor did he push forward the development of mankind. Therefore, he decisively opened the database and entered the name of Lao Wang in history. After filtering, the information appeared. Wang Jinxing, great historical figure. Age, 165. Cause of death. Unauthorized viewing. Historical achievement. Unauthorized viewing. Evaluation. When he was 39 years old, his favorite student, Feng Qi, improved and developed version 2.0 of the cultivation gymnastic. After a conversation with him, Wang Jinxing was shocked and realized that in addition to teaching, the development of cultivation techniques could also promote the development of mankind. Therefore, he resolutely resigned from his teaching position and applied for Star City University. After graduation, he was invited to work at the Tiger Soul Institute again with excellent result. His research results promoted the development of human civilization and had an indelible contribution that benefited future generations. Seeing the great historical figure evaluation behind Wang Jinxing's name, Feng Qi let out a long sigh of relief. In the Star City database, the original introduction of Lao Wang was that Lao Wang felt that teaching could not change the fate of mankind, so he resolutely applied for the Future Academy. However, this time, he was the one who made Wang Jinxing have such an idea. He applied for the Future Academy several years in advance and finally succeeded in entering the Tiger Soul Institute. The trajectory of Lao Wang's life changed a little because of his words, but Lao Wang's contribution to mankind did not change. While lamenting, he felt that he seemed to have found a brand new path to change history in the future. He could find those historical figures and guide them to change the future. However, before that, Feng Qi decided to continue copying cultivation techniques and implement this idea in the future. He felt that as long as he had good enough cultivation techniques, the next time he entered the dream, the extinction of mankind might be changed. When he opened his eyes after entering the dream, he no longer saw bones all over the ground. Instead, he saw a bustling modern city where people lived and worked in peace. After thinking about it, Feng Qi clicked on the list of cultivation technique. This time, he chose a 3-star physical cultivation technique, Tiger Fist. While watching the teaching video, he followed the movements of the instructor in the video. He twisted his body and changed his breathing rhythm according to the essentials, sensing the spirit energy around him. After trying again and again, Feng Qi gradually grasped the basic essentials of the Tiger Fist, after an unknown period of time. At this moment, the voice of the narrator appeared in his mind. "A look behind you. Xiao Hei is here. You're going to die again." Hearing the reminder, he immediately turned his head and saw a familiar figure shrouded in black fog floating over from the metal passage. Realizing that he was going to die a tragic death again, Feng Qi stomped his feet, gritted his teeth, and took the initiative to charge at the black figure. "I'll kill you. Take my Tiger Fist." Chapter 11. When they woke up in the morning, Feng Qi and Mo Fei went straight to the school cafeteria. For this meal, Feng Qi ate 3 times the usual amount. Mo Fei was stunned and called him the reincarnation of a Taotai. When they arrived at the classroom, nearly half of the students had already arrived. Feng Qi and Mo Fei returned to their seats and began to review the exam content. 8:00 in the morning. Wang Jinxing hurried into the classroom and came to the front of the podium. He then looked at the students with a smile and said, "Today's announcement is announced. Before the graduation exam begins, some outstanding students from our school will be given the opportunity to visit and study at an institution of higher learning. One of the students from our class will be given this honor." After Wang Jinxing finished speaking, the students all turned to look at Feng Qi. "What if it's not me?" Feng Qi smiled awkwardly. Hearing this, the students all raised their middle fingers at him. "Pretentious prick will be struck by lightning. Tut, I'm not washing my hair upside down. Excessive modesty is pretentious prick." "Quiet, now let's talk about the selected student from our class," Wang Jinxing said as he took out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, spread it out and smoothed it out before reading. My classmate, Feng Qi, will be given the opportunity to visit and study at Star City University. There was no applause. All the students seemed to take it for granted. After receiving the letter from Wang Jinxing, Feng Qi's expression was calm, which attracted another round of boos. Feng Qi was not surprised that he was given the opportunity to visit and study at an institution of higher learning. After all, his grades had been at the top of the class for many years and he was invincible. The only regret he had was that he did not get into the Galactic Academy that he wanted to apply for. It was not that Star City University was worse than the Galactic Academy. In some aspects, Star City University was even better than the Galactic Academy, such as the study of combat techniques, body techniques, and so on. However, the cultivation technique research that Feng Qi wanted to study was still better at the Milky Way Academy. This was also the reason why he chose the Milky Way Academy. Feng Qi, go back and pack your luggage. You'll be reporting to the school gate later. The rest of you, continue with your revision, said Wang Jinxing. He crumpled the paper into a ball and stuffed it back into his pocket. He then turned around and left the classroom. Tisk tsk. Star City University is a good place. I heard that the senior sisters there are very pretty. You're in luck. But be careful. Don't bring your child back. Looking at the grinning Mo Fei, Feng Qi was speechless. I'm only gone for 2 weeks. How can the baby be mine? Ha ha ha, that won't be a problem. Scram. He left the classroom and returned to the dormitory. Feng Qi began to organize the items he needed to bring with him. Then, he pushed his suitcase towards the school gate. At this time, there were already more than 10 buses parked at the school gate. The windshield of each bus had the name of the cultivation school that they were heading to. In addition, Wang Jinxing and a group of teachers were also waiting. Seeing his arrival, Wang Jinxing smiled. That blue school bus is going to Star City University. Study hard once you're there. Learn as much as you can. It will be helpful for you in the future. Lao Wang, are you the one who sent me to Star City University? Is there any inside story? Feng Qi knew that Wang Jinxing graduated from Star City University. That was why he was suspicious. I don't have that much power. The school you're going to is completely random. Besides, Star City University is one of the top 100 schools. Do you feel wronged? Looking at Feng Qi's suspicious face, Wang Jinxing couldn't help but stare at him. No, I'm just asking. While waiting, the students who were qualified to visit the school arrived one after another. After everyone had arrived, the school leader began to speak. What he wanted to say was nothing more than that the students should study hard and not do anything out of line in a school of higher learning. Feng Qi wasn't listening at all. After half an hour of speech, the school leader reluctantly put down the microphone and turned to leave. At this time, Wang Jinxing looked at him and said, "Get in the car. Get in the car. Remember not to embarrass me outside." Feng Qi nodded and pushed his suitcase to the side of the blue school bus. After stuffing his suitcase into the bus cabin, he found an empty seat and sat down. What surprised him was that he was the only one going to Star City University. After waiting for a while, he didn't see any other students get on the bus. About 10 minutes later, the driver started the bus and slowly drove out of the school gate. The scenery outside the window made Feng Qi, who hadn't stepped out of the school gate for a long time, feel both familiar and unfamiliar. The driver of the school bus was a greasy uncle. He held the steering wheel with one hand and drove quickly on the road. Along the way, he constantly overtook other cars. From time to time, he would open the window and yell at the cars outside. He also cursed the people's ancestors. It was a real-life version of Fast and Furious. This scene made Feng Qi dumbfounded. He muttered in his heart that driving the school bus was a bit unfair to the driver. With this kind of personality, he should be driving a tank or an airplane. Since the Star City Academy was located in Star City, Feng Qi arrived at his destination in less than 2 hours after speeding all the way. Chapter 12. Star City City Center. Star City University. After getting out of the car, Feng Qi dragged his luggage to the entrance of Star City University. The first thing he saw was a stone monument that was more than 20 meters tall. The words Star City University were engraved on it in flamboyant calligraphy. As he walked into the university, the guard at the entrance blocked his way. He was only allowed to pass after he handed over the letter of visit. After entering the gate, he saw a marble road that led to the university. There were many bronze statues on both sides of the road. They were all graduates of Star City University and had made outstanding contributions to the development of mankind. The inscriptions under the statues recorded their life stories. As he walked further in, he saw a lotus pond. It was summer, the peak season for lotus flowers. Green leaves filled the pond and swayed in the wind. Walking along the main road, Feng Qi spent an hour walking to the dormitory building. He arrived at the dormitory administrator's office and handed in the letter. Soon, he had his own residence, room 301 on the 3rd floor. Star City University's dormitory was a single room, but it was bigger than his dormitory at school. It was fully equipped. The fridge was already stuffed with all kinds of drinks and food. The dormitory building was also equipped with a gym, a psychological catharsis room, an internet room, and other facilities. The room was very clean, so he didn't need to clean it again. After putting down his luggage and putting his clothes in the closet, he opened the letter of visit and dialed the school's receptionist's number. The call went through after 2 rings. A middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the line. "Who is this?" "I'm a student from Xin Qing High School. My name is Feng Qi." After listening to Feng Qi's self-introduction, the person on the other end of the line said, "I understand. You probably haven't systematically come into contact with cultivation courses, so I'll arrange for you to sit in on the cultivation exchange class. It will be very helpful for you. Remember the location of the classroom." "Okay, teacher. I understand." After hanging up the phone, he took a pen and wrote down the address of the cultivation exchange class that the receptionist mentioned. Looking at the time, it was close to noon. He decided to go to the school's cafeteria for lunch first and then go to the cultivation exchange class to take a look. After leaving the dormitory, he asked for directions and walked for more than 10 minutes before he arrived at the cafeteria. There was a buffet in the restaurant and all the food was free. Feng Qi wasn't surprised by this. After all, Star City University nurtured the future elites of mankind. Among the graduates, there was no lack of outstanding talents who had made outstanding contributions to the development of mankind. Therefore, it was completely understandable that the food was free. After taking a pile of delicious food, he found an empty seat to sit down with his stomach rumbling and began to wolf down the food. While eating, Feng Qi's attention was attracted by another student who was also eating. She had long black hair, a petite figure, and a delicate face. However, what surprised him was that the table in front of this senior sister was filled with food remains. While she was eating, she had an imposing manner that could swallow mountains and rivers. He also noticed that there was a runic crystal embedded in her right arm. It shone faintly as she ate. After his body mutated, Feng Qi's appetite was astonishing. However, he felt that he was not on the same level as this Lolita senior sister. How can such a small body eat food that's bigger than itself? Won't it be bloated? At this moment, the girl who was eating suddenly turned her head to look at him. When they looked at each other, a savage and wild aura hit him in the face. It gave Feng Qi the illusion that the person eating not far away was not a human, but a savage beast. Feeling that it was impolite to observe like this, he quickly lowered his head. After the Lolita senior sister stared at Feng Qi for a while, a trace of doubt appeared in her eyes. Then, she continued to gorge herself. After lunch, it was 12:30 p.m. The cultivation class was about to start. Feng Qi walked out of the restaurant and went straight to the cultivation exchange class. The cultivation exchange class was half an hour away from the restaurant. When he arrived at the class, it was already filled with students. The moment he entered, the students who were chatting suddenly fell silent and looked at him in unison. This made Feng Qi feel a little awkward. He was only there to listen to the students discuss cultivation. Now that he was the center of attention, it made him feel uncomfortable. He wanted to find a seat to sit down, but when he came to an empty seat, a student beside him said in confusion, "Junior, go and teach. Why did you want to sit down? Do I have to teach too?" He was stunned. "If you don't teach, who will?" The student also had a surprised expression on his face. He thought that this was the way the cultivation exchange class interacted. Every newcomer had to explain their understanding of cultivation. Feng Qi could only brace himself and walk to the podium. Looking at the seniors who were looking at him, he muttered to himself for a moment before opening his mouth. "My understanding of cultivation is very shallow. There are some areas where I am lacking. I hope the seniors can forgive me." There was no applause or welcome. All the students' expressions were cold. What kind of attitude is this? Star City University's students only have this kind of quality? Who are you looking down on? He could not help but complain in his heart. But since it was the process of a newcomer's arrival, he still had to talk. After muttering to himself for a moment, Feng Qi thought of what he should talk about. He thought of the other cultivation technique he learned in his dream, Fierce Tiger Fist. He felt that other than this technique, there was nothing else he could talk about. So, he raised his head and decided to start acting cool. "Next, I'll talk about my understanding of body cultivation. Body cultivation is a cultivation method that tempers the body to improve the strength of the bloodline. As the cultivation realm increases, the body will be invulnerable to fire and water, invulnerable to swords and spears." Listening to Feng Qi's speech, the students' expressions changed. "Isn't this the basics? It doesn't live up to its name. This is the exchange student from Chili Winter Academy? Didn't they say that he was admitted by the Tiger Soul Institute in advance? That's it? Sure enough, it's a lie. If he can be admitted by the Tiger Soul Institute in advance like this, I can do it too. I'm so disappointed. I thought the rumored Junior Lin Ran was very powerful. It turns out that this class is a complete waste of my time." Because the content that Feng Qi was talking about was the basic content of physical cultivation in the Fierce Tiger Fist video tutorial, the students were greatly disappointed. But soon, he got to the main topic. In the development of human martial arts there was the Xingyi Fist. I think it can also be applied to body cultivation technique. For example, imitating the form of a tiger, the fist technique is divided into 5 styles, which correspond to the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth respectively. Practicing these 5 styles can nourish the lungs, kidneys, liver, heart, and spleen in the body. On the basis of more conforming to the law of life activities, it can strengthen and guide the meridians and parts connected to the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Especially connecting the Run and Du meridians, it can achieve the main circulation of spirit energy and further drive the vigorous and smooth circulation of spirit energy in the body. Listening to Feng Qi's analysis of the general principles of the Fierce Tiger Fist, the students' expressions gradually changed. Because they realized that Feng Qi was really something. Not only did he have his own unique understanding of body cultivation, but he also expanded and explained the existing body cultivation system. At this moment, the students no longer dared to underestimate Feng Qi. They opened their notebooks and listened while taking note. Their expressions were particularly serious, and they nodded from time to time to express their agreement with Feng Qi's content. At this moment, outside the classroom, a 17 or 18-year-old youth, hurriedly ran over from afar. He was handsome, with ebony black pupils and a tall, handsome nose. His appearance had a gentle beauty, and at the same time, his face was brimming with a confident smile. Arriving in front of the classroom, Lin Ran was about to push open the door and enter when he heard someone teaching in the classroom. He was stunned. Did I go to the wrong class? Raising his head to look at the name of the class, Combat Class 1, Lin Ran was even more stunned. That's right, it's here. Out of politeness, people naturally couldn't enter when they were teaching, so Lin Ran chose to stand outside the classroom and listen. Listening to the teacher, talking about body cultivation, Lin Ran's clear eyes rippled, and he nodded from time to time to express his agreement. As expected of Star City University, the teachers here are so professional. Chapter 13. After talking about 1/3 of the content, Feng Qi stopped. Looking up, all the students were looking at him with bright eyes, their faces full of anticipation. Teacher, please continue. Don't stop. I'll feel uncomfortable if I don't finish listening. It's really interesting. You've opened up a new way of understanding body cultivation. It gave me a lot of ideas. I'll try them out after listening to the class. Teacher, please continue. I'm impressed, I'm really impressed. Indeed, the new generation excels the old. Teacher, you're worthy of the title of genius. Pfft, weren't you looking down on me just now? Feng Qi complained in his heart. When he heard the students call him teacher, he thought it was a form of respect between the students in the cultivation exchange class. He didn't think much of it. Looking at the pairs of eager eyes, he pondered for a moment and continued to explain the basic essentials of the fierce tiger fist. Although he was a little dissatisfied with this group of arrogant seniors from Star City University, Feng Qi didn't hold a grudge. He could take this opportunity to spread the fierce tiger fist and let more people learn it. This would speed up the development of modern cultivation and affect the future. Outside the classroom, Lin Ran was engrossed in the lecture. When he realized that the lecture had suddenly stopped, his heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. He felt that the concepts of body cultivation that Feng Qi explained were very novel. He had never heard of many of the insights which really impressed him. While waiting anxiously, the lecture sounded again. Lin Ran sat on the floor and took out his notebook to take note. Old Liang, what's the matter? Lin Ran is at your place, right? You have to take good care of him. He's not only my beloved disciple, but also a designated researcher of the Tiger Soul Institute. If he's bullied at your place, don't blame me for being rude. Don't worry, I've arranged everything. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. I'm going to listen to his lecture and see if he's as outstanding as you said. After hanging up, Bai Fuxing stood up and walked towards the second teaching building. Lin Ran was not a student of the Starry Academy, but an exchange student from the Chilly Winter Academy. After arriving at the Starry Academy and arranging a dormitory for him, the first thing Bai Fuxing did was to arrange for Lin Ran to give a lesson to the students in the higher grades. He wanted to let them know that there was always someone better than them. Along the way, Bai Fuxing smiled and nodded. After greeting the students and teachers he met, Bai Fuxing arrived outside the classroom of Combat Class 1. Just as he was about to push the door open, he caught sight of Lin Ran, who was sitting in the corner, writing on a notebook and nodding from time to time. Bai Fuxing? He walked up to Lin Ran. At this time, Lin Ran was completely focused and did not notice his arrival. Lin Ran, I told you to go to class. Why are you sitting here? Shoo, don't talk. I'm taking notes, Lin Ran said without raising his head. Bai Fuxing. Puzzled, Bai Fuxing turned to look at the classroom. Through the window, he could see a young student giving a lesson on the podium. Bai Fuxing could not help but frown. This was a normal lesson for Combat Class 1, not a cultivation exchange class. Who would be so bold as to speak freely on the podium at this time? Looking at Lin Ran, who was still taking notes, Bai Fuxing was puzzled again. He could not understand what Lin Ran was recording. With Xing Yi as the general principle of cultivation, one must have an indomitable aura like a ferocious tiger in battle. Only then can, hearing the content of the lesson from the classroom, Bai Fuxing's expression gradually changed. He realized that the student giving the lesson was very impressive. He already had his own understanding of body cultivation. At this moment, the anger in Bai Fuxing's heart disappeared. He followed Lin Ran and began to listen. In the classroom, Feng Qi, who had explained 2/3 of the basic principles, felt his mouth go dry. He stopped his explanation once again. Seeing this, the students who were listening to him to their heart's content immediately gave him mineral water and snack. They all said that, "Teacher, please rest for a while before continuing." This made Feng Qi very speechless. He was only here to listen to the exchange of cultivation experiences. How did it become a lesson? But as the saying goes, if you show off half of it, you'll finish half of it. Furthermore, he had already explained 2/3 of the basic content of the Fierce Tiger Fist. These students would soon finish copying it. He decided to finish explaining the content. During Feng Qi's break, outside the classroom, Lin Ran looked at Bai Fuxing with resentment. "Elder Bai, I've already prepared the content of the lesson and prepared to show off. I didn't expect the clown to be me. Does my teacher know that you're doing this to suppress me?" Bai Fuxing didn't know how to respond to this. He really didn't have the intention to suppress Lin Ran. He let Lin Ran come to the class to suppress the students of Combat Class 1 and let them understand the gap between them and a true genius. He had never heard of the students in the classroom. He didn't know them at all. But at this moment Bai Fuxing felt gratified. He didn't expect the academy to have such an outstanding talent. Looking at Lin Ran's resentful eyes, Bai Fuxing thought for a while and said earnestly, "Lin Ran, you have to understand that there's always someone better. Although your performance in Chilly Winter Academy is very outstanding, our Starry Academy doesn't lack talented students. See, this is the strength of our Starry Academy. I made this arrangement in hopes that you can go further. Don't think that you can be arrogant and complacent just because you were accepted by the Tiger Soul Institute in advance. You still have a long way to go." Looking at Bai Fuxing's peaceful face, Lin Ran nodded. "Elder Bai, I understand. This class is very meaningful and I've benefited a lot. Thank you for your guidance." As he spoke, Lin Ran stood up and bowed to Bai Fuxing. Hearing this, Bai Fuxing was secretly pleased. He had always heard that Lin Ran from Chilly Winter Academy was very talented and had put forward many valuable suggestions on the improvement and research of combat technique. He had been noticed by the Tiger Soul Institute and had been accepted in advance. Every time he thought about how there was no talent in Starry Academy who could match him, Bai Fuxing sighed in his heart. But he didn't expect that there would be an unexpected surprise today. He found a piece of dusty jade. "Elder Bai, which class is the student teaching? What's his name? I want to know him," Lin Ran asked at this moment, his eyes full of anticipation. Bai Fuxing. In the face of the question, Bai Fuxing was speechless. This was because he didn't know who was in the classroom. But he was already halfway through showing off. If he said that he didn't know him now, he would be embarrassed. Therefore, Bai Fuxing pretended to be indifferent. "He's an outstanding student of Starry Academy. I'll introduce you to him when you have time. Elder Bai, of course I know that he's an outstanding student of your academy. What I'm asking is which class he's in and what's his name," Lin Ran continued to ask. "Didn't you want to listen to the class? It's starting." Fortunately, Feng Qi began to continue the class, alleviating Bai Fuxing's embarrassment. Seeing this, Lin Ran didn't ask any more questions. He immediately sat down and continued to take note. Bai Fuxing also chose to stand at the side and listen to the class. During the class, he nodded from time to time. After Feng Qi finished the classroom was filled with thunderous applause. Even after Feng Qi pushed the door open and left, the applause didn't stop for a long time. Looking at Feng Qi, who was walking towards them, Lin Ran looked at Bai Fuxing and said, "Elder Bai, he's here. Introduce him." "Alright, then I'll introduce you to him." Bai Fuxing felt awkward, but he still took 2 steps forward. Just as he was about to speak, Feng Qi modestly moved aside and walked past him. Bai Fuxing, Lin Ran. Looking at Feng Qi, who was walking away, Lin Ran was puzzled. He couldn't help but turn to Bai Fuxing. "Elder Bai, are you sure you know him? Or does he know you?" Bai Fuxing. Chapter 14. Star City University. Late at night, everything was silent. Feng Qi sat on a bench by the lake, looking at the lake and rockery under the moonlight, somewhat lost in thought. During the afternoon lecture in the cultivation exchange class, the students responded strongly, giving him a new idea in his mind. Whether he could rely on his own strength to save the future, he couldn't guarantee. However, he knew that increasing his own strength would not be enough to save the future. He had to rely on the efforts of the entire human race. Therefore, he needed to create opportunities to speed up the development of human civilization. During the lecture this time, an idea emerged in his mind. Could he become a teacher in the academy and nurture some outstanding talents? Before graduating from the academy, he would not be able to join the major cultivation method research institute. Perhaps he could try to become a teacher. For example, the fierce tiger fist that he taught to the students of the cultivation exchange class would definitely be promoted in the coming days. Its influence would gradually spread throughout the entire Star City, and even the entire world. However, he also knew that doing so would inevitably bring about a series of troubles. Suddenly grasping a lot of cultivation knowledge, and being able to open up a cultivation field that humans had yet to step into at this stage was indeed too abnormal. However, he already had a plan on how to deal with this problem. Others can think whatever they want. I'm a genius. I can casually create a new cultivation method and open up a new cultivation field. Why can't I do it? At this moment, Feng Qi made a decision. He wanted to act cool. Because of this cool, he had to act cool. Otherwise, he would not be able to explain where he got the cultivation method from. He might as well just admit it to the whole world. That's right, I'm a super genius that only appears once in a million years. After thinking about it, Feng Qi stood up and stretched. He prepared to go back to his room and have a good sleep. He would also go to the dream world to level up, increase his bloodline strength, and explore the secrets of the dream world. As he walked towards the dormitory building, he suddenly heard the sound of a harmonica from afar. Looking up, with the help of the light from the street lamps by the lake, he saw a thin figure sitting under a willow tree not far away. She bent her knees and sat under the willow tree. She held the harmonica with both hands and pressed it to her lips, playing alone. The melody was deep, and the way she played it was both fast and slow. It was as if she was telling a sad story. After getting closer, Feng Qi found that the person sitting under the tree was actually the Big Eater senior sister he met at the Shuefu restaurant during the day. However, what made him puzzled was that her pupils had turned into vertical slits at this moment, flashing with a strange purple light. As if noticing Feng Qi's approach, the girl stopped playing and turned to look at Feng Qi. Her eyes glowed with a devilish purple light as she opened her mouth to reveal 2 small canine teeth. A wild and untamed aura rushed towards him, causing Feng Qi to have the illusion that a wild beast was standing in front of him. "You're not afraid of me?" the girl suddenly asked. "Why should I be afraid of you?" Feng Qi was stunned. These words made him feel somewhat baffled. "It's just a little Lolita. It's not like she has 3 heads and 6 arms. Do I need to be afraid of her? Believe it or not, I'll punch you until you cry," he complained in his heart. My name is Mu Qing. The girl looked straight into Feng Qi's eyes and said her name, waiting for his reaction. Under normal circumstances, the students in the academy would decisively retreat when they heard her name. This was because she was a rune-modified human. Moreover, the modification was incomplete and could easily go out of control. It was extremely dangerous to interact with her, and they might even lose their lives. Therefore, the students in the academy also avoided her, treating her as a scourge and a monster. When he heard Mu Qing say his name, Feng Qi thought that this was a self-introduction, so he politely extended his hand and introduced himself. Hello, senior sister. My name is Feng Qi. Feng Qi's reaction was completely different from what Mu Qing had imagined. She could not help but frown. You don't know me? Don't know you? Senior sister, are you very famous? Feng Qi looked puzzled. After looking at Feng Qi for a few seconds, Mu Qing suddenly got up and walked straight into the distance. Looking at Mu Qing's departing figure, Feng Qi felt a little baffled. Senior sister, there must be something wrong with her. Back in the dormitory, Feng Qi took out the tablet from his suitcase and began to look up information. Senior sister Mu Qing made him curious, especially the rune crystal embedded in her right arm, which made Feng Qi think of domain creatures. This was because the rune crystal embedded in the body was one of the most obvious characteristics of domain creatures. After logging into Star City University's forum, Feng Qi entered Mu Qing and began to search for related information. As he browsed, his expression gradually became serious. At this moment, he realized that Mu Qing was actually a rune-modified human. Wang Jinxing had briefly mentioned about rune-modified humans in his history class. Rune-modified humans were the same as spirit energy cultivation. They originated from early human exploration and research experiments on domain creatures. At that time, in addition to the study of spirit energy, a group of scholars wanted to try to obtain power from domain creatures. Every domain creature was embedded with a rune brand that was connected to the internal organs in the body. At that time, the scholars who advocated exploring the mysteries of becoming stronger from within the bodies of domain creatures studied the rune brand. After countless attempts, they finally came up with a bold plan, Rune-Modified Humans Project. They advocated extracting rune power from the bodies of domain creatures and then embedding it into the bodies of ordinary people, allowing ordinary people to obtain power comparable to domain creatures. At that time, this plan even overwhelmed the Spirit Energy Research School, which was the current cultivation study, and became the mainstream of human development. However, the drawbacks quickly became apparent. After the runes were embedded in the bodies of the first batch of people who participated in the experiment, although they obtained great power in a short period of time, as time passed, their temperament changed drastically and gradually became uncontrollable, causing a lot of safety risk. Although a small number of experimenters successfully controlled the rune power and became powerful rune warriors, the success rate of the experiment was terrifyingly low, and there was a potential risk of losing control. In the end, the Rune-Modified Humans project was shelved. The cultivation study also became the most important main branch of human development in subsequent research and innovation. Chapter 15. After understanding Mu Qing's situation, Feng Qi suddenly understood why she had such a reaction. In her eyes, he was a freak. The students of Star City University should be afraid of her. It would be abnormal if they weren't. Through the posts in the forum, he also understood that before Mu Qing entered Star City University, she was actually a scavenger. Scavengers were people who escaped from cities covered by domains. Due to the large population, many cities were unable to accept them in large batches, so they became vagrants outside the city. Their living environment was extremely bad compared to the residents of the city. There was no trust between them. Sometimes they would even kill their companions for food. Their descendants also grew up in such an environment, abiding by the law of survival of the fittest. Star City once accepted a group of scavengers, gave them a place to settle down, and arranged jobs for them. But soon, the security of Star City became chaotic, and the crime rate skyrocketed. In the end, Star City had no choice but to cancel the job of settling the scavengers. Other cities were like Star City. They generally adopted measures to help the scavengers, but they all failed. Although they were all humans, in the eyes of many, scavengers were aliens who couldn't be educated. Feng Qi's impression of scavengers wasn't bad. He first learned about the existence of scavengers in Wang Jinxing's history class. Wang Jinxing's evaluation of scavengers wasn't as extreme as most people's. He felt that since they were all humans, they should live in harmony. There were also cultivators among the scavengers. In the long road to resisting the domain invasion in the future, they would also be an important force. Only if all humans worked together would there be hope for the future. Wang Jinxing believed that the reason why the residents of the city couldn't understand the behavior of scavengers was related to the difference in their living environment. The scavengers' living environment was outside the city where resources were scarce, while the residents of the city didn't need to worry about food and safety. This caused a huge difference in their behavior and thinking. This problem could be solved. The most important thing was communication and not prejudice. During this period, Wang Jinxing also listed a few stories of scavengers helping domain legions to disperse domain fields, which deepened Feng Qi's impression of scavengers. Therefore, Feng Qi didn't dislike Mu Qing. But what puzzled him was that the plan to transform people with runes had long been shelved due to serious hidden dangers. Why would Mu Qing become a rune-transformed person? And how did he get into Star City University? Puzzled, Feng Qi tried to find an answer in the Star City University forum. While searching, a post on the forum's hot list caught Feng Qi's attention. It's amazing. The new exchange student, Lin Ran, is amazing. After listening to one class, I'm completely convinced. OP. The Little Tyrant of Star City University content. I'm sure everyone has heard of Junior Lin Ran from Chilly Winter Academy. You must also know that he has been accepted by the Tiger Soul Institute in advance. At that time I was quite unconvinced. I felt that he had only proposed some ideas for the research of cultivation methods, and not developed a new cultivation method himself. Why should he be treated so well? I could have done it if I had been in his shoes. It wasn't until I personally experienced it that I realized that the gap between people is real. He was very young, but his research on cultivation methods had already taken a different path, and he had walked on a completely different path. After listening to the class, I went to the training room to practice Junior Lin Ran's theory. I was shocked again. Junior Lin Ran's theory can already be combined with practice. It's not just a theoretical hypothesis. It's as if I'm looking at a rising human star. Where did the class take place? Is there a video recording? I want to hear it. The first class was in our combat class 1. I'm not sure if there will be any more classes, but I have to say that his class was really interesting. After listening to it, I learned a lot. It wasn't just limited to theoretical research like everyone thought. I'm now a fan. As expected of a talented student who was accepted by the Tiger Soul Institute in advance. Is it really that incredible? How amazing can he be? We're all humans. Does he have 3 heads and 6 arms? Black man's question mark face. JPG. Who took a video? Let me see it. Many students had already replied to this post. In addition to the students' discussion about Lin Ran, one of the teacher's replies made Feng Qi curious about Lin Ran. As a teacher of the Academy's combat department, I personally experienced how ridiculous the gap between people's talent is. It's even bigger than the gap between a human and a pig. When I was studying at the Future Academy, I studied cultivation research. I can say without hesitation that I was the most hard-working student in my class. However, in a class of 100 people, my grades weren't even in the top 50. The worst was one of my roommates. He copied my homework every day. When he studied, he was sloppy and never paid attention. In the end, he scored 489 points, while I scored 271 points. Later on, I understood that if I couldn't do it, I couldn't do it. I obediently switched to combat studies. After that, my path was very smooth. Whether it was entering a domain battle group or being recruited by Star City University to become a teacher of combat class 3, I never felt depressed again. In fact, even now, I'm still very envious of those students who continue on the path of combat studies. Many of them later entered various combat research institutes. That was once my unattainable dream. In my eyes, each and every one of them was a shining golden existence. Student Lin Ran might be a talented student similar to them. Junior Lin Ran, who was praised by everyone on the forum, made Feng Qi think of someone. Wang Jinxing. He was once an outstanding graduate of Star City University. Like Lin Ran, he was recruited by the Tiger Soul Institute before he even graduated. The only regret was that Wang Jinxing chose to be a history teacher, and his talent was buried. Fortunately, Lao Wang had awakened in advance. He had the thought of giving up teaching and working at the Tiger Soul Institute. Otherwise, it would be a loss for all of humanity if a jade pearl was covered in dust. Realizing that Lin Ran might be an extremely talented person like Wang Jinxing, Feng Qi had the thought of getting to know him. Chapter 16. In the end, Feng Qi still could not find any information about why Mu Qing became a rune-modified human in the Star City University Forum. Since the search was fruitless, Feng Qi did not persist. It was late at night. After washing up, he lay on his bed and quickly entered the dream. Dark clouds hung low, and the ground was littered with corpses. A cold gust of wind swept across the land, and the roars of the living dead could be heard from afar. Opening his eyes, Feng Qi skillfully picked up a broken bone, and with a jumping slash, he smashed Shao Kan to the ground before it could stand up. Then, he went forward and killed it with a few more slashes. After doing all this, he cast his gaze to the west. That place was shrouded in white mist, and he could not see through it. However, he could see scarlet eyes and ghostly figures flashing in the white mist from time to time. As if sensing Feng Qi's curiosity about the white mist, the narration appeared in his mind. Realizing that the white mist is full of danger, you stifle your curiosity and decide to continue hunting the living dead to become stronger. Feng Qi was speechless. Suppressing his curiosity, he listened to the narration's instructions and continued hunting the living dead. Heading east, on the way to Star City Sanctuary, Feng Qi not only hunted the living dead with mutilated bodies, but also the living dead with intact bodies. With the increase in his body's strength and the buff from the title prefix, normal living dead could no longer pose a threat to him. The first time he entered the dream of the future, he had to use some tricks to kill a mutilated living dead. But now, even if he faced it head-on, he could easily kill the living dead in a short period of time. His killing efficiency increased as his strength increased. Following the familiar path, he also encountered a few worms that crawled out from under the pile of bones. Without exception, they all became experienced babies, which increased the percentage of his title, toughness, milestone. In this dream of the future, Feng Qi's goal was still the Star City Sanctuary. In his mind, only gymnastics training and Tiger Fist were clearly not enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to act tough in the real world, let alone become a genius. In the dreamscape, there was no moon or sun in the sky. Feng Qi wandered among the living dead, killing his way forward. When he came before the stone tablet again, his attributes had changed. Tenacious living dead, Feng Qi's strength level, ungraded prefix title, normal, toughness LV1, 1% increase in muscle toughness, bloodline, Human, primary, bloodline evolution points, 58/1000 prefix title milestone frowny face normal, upgradable. Second milestone, 48% toughness LV1, upgradable 54% as he absorbed more and more bloodline evolution points. Feng Qi's organs were now covered with a layer of pink flesh. The rotting smell had clearly decreased, and the texture of his muscles had also become clearer. At least he felt that he was getting closer and closer to being a human. It could also be a monster with huge muscles, similar to the tyrant in Resident Evil. Shut up. He walked up to the stone tablet and dripped a drop of blood onto it. Then, the stone tablet slowly opened, revealing a metal tunnel. Stepping into the passage, Feng Qi went straight to the location of the database. After skillfully waking up the database, he first searched for his own information. Feng Qi, cultivation method researcher. Age, 32. Cause of death. During a research mission, he followed the life-severing domain into a domain and was accidentally killed by a domain creature. Date of death: April 8, 2042. Lifetime achievements: Honor Galactic Academy's B-Class Outstanding Graduate, Gymnastics 2. 0 modifier, B-Class Elite Human Medal, Outstanding Contribution to Human Development Award, creator of Tiger Fist Evaluation. In his early years, he showed off his talent and improved gymnastics. He also created the body cultivation method Tiger Fist and was considered as humanity's future star. However, after that, he did not create any new cultivation methods and was thought to have run out of talent. In the end, when he was 32 years old, he accidentally lost his life while researching. Young man, I see that your forehead is turning black. You don't have long to live. I bet that you won't live past 32 years old. Shut up. Next time, I'll let you see if I live to 100 years old. Looking at the detailed information on the screen, Feng Qi realized something. After he entered the dream world, time did not stop in the real world. However, because he did not enter the dream world in this timeline, he only had the achievements of gymnastics training and Tiger Fist. After that, he did not create any new cultivation method. However, this time, people in the future had a higher evaluation of him. The only thing that did not change was his lifespan. It was pitifully short. There were always various reasons that caused him to leave this beautiful world early. After looking at his own information, Feng Qi opened the cultivation methods list. After searching, just as he had expected, the information on the ferocious Tiger Fist had changed. Tiger Fist, 6th set modified version, cultivation method creator, Feng Qi cultivation method rating, 3 stars cultivation method introduction. The Tiger Fist was born from the ancient martial art Xingyi Fist. It is an extremely strong and fierce body cultivation method. It includes training methods and body cultivation technique. It is very suitable for people with a strong body to practice. Cultivation method note: blood strength has not reached 20 points. You cannot practice it. Otherwise, it will cause serious damage to your body. After confirming the changes in the future, Feng Qi was preparing to learn a new cultivation method. However, he suddenly thought of a person. Without hesitation, he entered the name Mu Qing in the search list. After filtering, Mu Qing's detailed information and photo appeared. The photo was very blurry, as if it was secretly taken from afar. In the photo, Mu Qing's face was cold. Her lowly body had already grown into a mature woman's body. The rune crystal on her right arm was shining brightly. Mu Qing, Human Rebel Army. Introduction. Originally a student of Star City University. After graduation, she joined the Domain Battle Group and became a warrior. However, during an investigation, she betrayed the group and killed the leader with her own hand. After that, she disappeared. In fact, she secretly recruited a large number of scavengers and established the Human Rebel Army, Dawn. She also restarted the Rune Transformation Project and fought against the humans for more than 30 years. Mu Qing's hands were stained with the blood of many innocent people. During this period, she led the rebel army and slaughtered several human cities. Her sins were heavy and she was despised by the future generations. Tags: Rune Transformation, leader of the Dawn Rebels personality. Cruel, cold-blooded, unscrupulous Feng Qi. He could not believe the future human's evaluation of Mu Qing. He did not expect that his lowly senior sister would become a traitor to the humans. Not only did she not stand on the side of the humans, she even turned against them. Chapter 17. The information about Mu Qing in the database made Feng Qi feel incredulous. However, the truth was right in front of him, and he had to believe it. The future in the dream was closely related to reality, and this had been proven a long time ago. The Dawn Rebel Army, the rune-modified people, the innocent dead, countless pieces of information intertwined in Feng Qi's mind, and it took him a long time to recover. At this moment, an idea appeared in his mind. Before Mu Qing became a scourge, he had to kill her in advance. As long as she was dead, there would be no Dawn Rebel Army, and there would be no dark period that lasted for more than 30 years in the historical records. However, Feng Qi immediately had many doubts in his mind. As a human, why would Mu Qing betray the human race? What was the reason for her decision? At this moment, the voice of the narrator appeared in his mind. There must be a reason for everything. You feel that the truth of the matter is not as simple as you imagined, so you decided to investigate this matter further. What do you mean? Narrator, are you hinting that there is a secret behind Mu Qing's betrayal of the human race? Feng Qi quickly asked. Blah blah blah. Feng Qi was speechless. Although the narrator was annoying, the hints it gave were often like it was guiding him, so Feng Qi felt that his guess might be right. There might be many undiscovered secrets behind Mu Qing's betrayal of the human race. Thinking of this, he began to look through the historical information in the database, trying to find the specific reason why Mu Qing betrayed the human race. As he had the authority of a tourist, he only had 3 chances to look through historical information, so he directly skipped over the information with unreliable titles. As he looked through, he realized that the information about Mu Qing recorded in the Star City database was generally about her experiences and actions after she betrayed the human race. However, there were very few records about her before she betrayed the human race. Most of the records were about Mu Qing's experiences at Star City University. These records all described one point. During her days at Star City University, Mu Qing had always been ostracized by her classmates, and no one was willing to be friends with her. Before she graduated, when she formed a domain battle team, none of the intern teams were willing to accept her as a partner. He couldn't help but suspect that perhaps Mu Qing's experience in the academy made her hate humans and had the idea of becoming enemies with them. There was no way to know the specific answer. He continued to look through the information related to Mu Qing after her graduation. According to the records, although Mu Qing did not have any friends, she was very strong. The runic crystal that had fused with her body had given her a special ability to absorb energy from food. Mu Qing's stomach had also undergone a special transformation under the modification of the rune crystal. Her digestive ability was 30 times that of an ordinary person. Ordinary food that entered her stomach would be quickly digested and absorbed. The nutrients would be turned into a small amount of vitality energy that would flow into Mu Qing's limbs and bones, strengthening her body. Mu Qing relied on her unique physique and outstanding performance during her internship in her domain. After she graduated, she was recruited into the A-rank domain battle group, Black Reef. After her internship ended, she was promoted to the A-rank battle group of the Black Reef battle group. After that, Mu Qing's performance was extremely outstanding. She participated in several operations to disperse domains and obtained many battle achievements. From these experiences, Feng Qi could not associate her with the demon that destroyed the world. This was because she had fought on the front lines against domain creatures. During this period, she had faced many life and death crises, but she did not retreat. She had also taken the lead to cover the retreat of her team members, causing her to be seriously injured and almost lose her life. Skipping through these information, Feng Qi found the last mission that changed Mu Qing. Mission number 321529. Mission publisher Scarlet Institute Headquarters Battle Group. Accepted mission Black Reef, a rank domain battle group. Mission details April 23, 2031, 3 p.m. An underground laboratory located in the outskirts of Twilight City suddenly lost contact with our headquarters. It may have been attacked by a domain transcendence expert. Seeking the help of all battle groups to investigate the situation. Danger level Unknown mission reward Special Spirit Stones X 3000 B-Rank Special Alloy Battle Armor 3 sets, Level 3 Spiritual Plants 10 stalks, 50 million in cash. C-Rank Runic Creature Death Calamity 3 sets of remains. It was during this mission that Mu Qing's personality changed greatly. She killed the leader of the Black Reef battle group with her own hand. After leaving, she recruited a large number of scavengers and established the Dawn Rebel Army. She began to become the enemy of all humans. This made Feng Qi curious about the underground laboratory of the Scarlet Institute branch. Was Mu Qing hiding before, or did the laboratory affect her? In order to find the answer, Feng Qi began to search for information related to the Scarlet Institute. But to his disappointment, he did not have the authority to view information related to the Scarlet Institute. He could not obtain the relevant information from the database. After closing the search page, Feng Qi fell into deep thought. Since he knew that Mu Qing would betray humanity in the future, he naturally could not sit back and do nothing. Now, he had two choices in front of him. Kill Mu Qing. Change Mu Qing. After thinking about it again and again, he decided to return to the real world and try to contact Mu Qing before making a decision. Next, Feng Qi opened the list of skills and began to learn the general principles of the Fierce Tiger Fist. Last time, he had only grasped the basics of the Fierce Tiger Fist. He had only learned about 1/3 of the content. There was still a lot of content that he did not learn because of the arrival of Xiao He. Since there was still time, Feng Qi decided to learn the advanced content of the Fierce Tiger Fist. After opening the video, a man wearing a military uniform appeared on the screen. Feng Qi followed his movements and began to perform the fist technique while carefully listening to him. Learning the Fierce Tiger Fist did not mean much to him. His growth mainly depended on killing monsters in his dreams and gaining evolution points. Therefore, mastering the Fierce Tiger Fist was the core of his training. Time slowly passed. After watching it a few times, Feng Qi roughly memorized the contents of Fierce Tiger Fist. Looking at the time on the top right corner of the screen, he knew that he did not have time to watch Fierce Tiger Fist again. In about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, Xiao He would appear in the underground laboratory. In fact, he had thought of closing the metal door, but he could not find the switch and there was no relevant information stored in the database. While waiting, just as he expected, a black shadow came out of the metal door and entered the underground shelter. The black mist covered the entire body, so Feng Qi could not see the specific appearance of the domain creature. However, he could clearly see the dark red rune crystal embedded in the forehead of the creature covered by the black shadow. Ask when you will return. Do not wander when you come. At the end of the sky, at the end of the earth, half of your friends are gone. It is rare to have happy gatherings in life, only parting is common. The narration jumped out at the right time to bid farewell to Feng Qi. Feng Qi was speechless. Looking at the approaching black shadow, he was very curious about what kind of title he would receive after killing it. He also wondered what kind of special ability it would give him. However, he only thought about it. He knew that with his current strength, He was not Xiao Hei's opponent at all. The black shadow was getting closer and closer. Feng Qi grabbed the leg bone on the control panel and took the initiative to walk toward the black shadow. He had the aura of a warrior who would not return. This time, a miracle did not appear. The moment they touched, Feng Qi was covered by the black mist. Then, a familiar chewing sound rang in his ears. As his vision was covered by darkness, he thought that he would return to reality. However, a string of words jumped out in his mind. Initial energy depleted. Energy required to be replenished. Current energy, 0% energy depleted. Reality feedback panel automatically opened. Chapter 18. When the darkness faded, Feng Qi returned to reality. He reached out and pressed the switch on the bedside table. The light illuminated the room. Before leaving the dream, 2 lines of text appeared, which confused Feng Qi. Initial energy depleted? What does that mean? After a moment of silence, he decided to ignore it since he couldn't understand. After getting up, he could clearly feel that his physique had changed. At the same time, a strong sense of hunger welled up in his heart, giving him the urge to eat. He opened the fridge, took out some ingredients, and went to the kitchen. Compared to the canned food in the fridge, Feng Qi wanted to eat something hot. Star City University's dormitory was well equipped and provided him with the opportunity to do whatever he wanted. He skillfully beat 2 eggs into a bowl and mixed the egg white and yolk with an egg beater. Then, he washed the tomatoes and cut them into pieces. He poured 2 spoonfuls of oil into the wok. After the oil heated up, he poured the beaten eggs into the wok. When the oil and the egg white came into contact, the fragrance brushed the tip of his nose. Feng Qi's stomach protested. He resisted the hunger, cut a bunch of spring onions and sprinkled them into the wok. When it was slightly hot, he poured in the tomatoes and stir-fried them. The fragrance became stronger and stronger. When the soup overflowed, Feng Qi habitually sprinkled salt and sugar and continued to stir-fry. At this time, the egg-fried rice had changed color. Every grain of rice was round and full, and the outside was covered with a layer of transparent golden yellow. Before entering Star City No. 1 Middle School, Feng Qi had always lived alone. Because his parents were members of the Domain Battle Group, they were always outside. Other than sending money home from time to time, they rarely contacted him. Therefore, he had learned how to be self-reliant since he was young. Cooking was also a piece of cake for him. When it came to eating, he wasn't very particular. However, when it came to the food that he personally cooked, he was especially serious. Looking at the rice in the wok, he finally added water and starch. When the soup thickened, a wok of golden yellow tomato egg fried rice was ready. With his stomach rumbling, he immediately began to eat heartily. In a moment, he finished the entire wok of tomato egg fried rice. After licking his lips with satisfaction, he was about to get up when a panel popped up in his mind. Energy is being replenished. Current energy 0.02%. The percentage of energy on the panel was slowly jumping. Every jump would increase by 0.001%. Eating can replenish energy? Feng Qi suspected that the jumping numbers on the panel had something to do with the egg-fried rice that was still being digested in his stomach. What surprised him even more was that he could actually see the virtual panel that only appeared in his dreams in the real world. The difference was that the virtual panel in the dream showed the body's attributes, while the virtual panel in reality showed the energy replenishment progress bar and numbers. As for what would happen when the progress bar on the interface reached its peak, he had no idea. There was no way to know the answer. Feng Qi returned to his bedroom. For the rest of the time, he decided to continue sleeping and go to the dream realm to learn a new cultivation technique. Tomorrow morning, he would go to the library and continue to learn more about cultivation technique research. Since he had decided to act tough, he couldn't afford to lose his foundation. He had already planned out his next step. After washing up and lying on the bed, Feng Qi's breathing gradually calmed down, and his expression gradually became serene. The next morning, Feng Qi slowly woke up. Rubbing his fluffy hair, he was a little confused. This sleep was very comfortable. When he woke up, he didn't feel tired at all. However, the problem was that after falling asleep, he didn't enter the dream realm's future world. I lost the ability to enter the dream realm? At this moment, he suddenly thought of the energy replenishment progress bar that appeared in his mind last night. Could it be that I need to replenish the energy bar the next time I enter the dream realm? One meal only replenished 0.12% of my energy. Then I have to eat 1,000 meals to replenish my energy. Damn it! The sky was already bright. After waking up and washing up, Feng Qi went straight to the school cafeteria. After eating a pot of egg-fried rice last night, he was no longer hungry. He was far from full. After waking up, he felt a strong sense of hunger again. The changes in his body made him think of Mu Qing, who also had an amazing appetite. She was a rune-modified person. The power she obtained came from a domain creature. This caused her to have an amazing appetite. She could also absorb power from food. The more she ate, the faster her strength grew. Although he didn't have an amazing appetite like Mu Qing and couldn't obtain power from food, he felt that he was very similar to Mu Qing. He also obtained power from a domain creature. The difference was that he didn't need to embed rune crystals on his body. The power he obtained from a domain creature would be added to him in the form of a title. Thinking of this, Feng Qi suddenly felt that he and Mu Qing were the same kind. They were both monsters. On the way to Xuefu restaurant, Feng Qi prepared to eat heartily and replenish his energy progress bar. When he arrived at Xuefu restaurant, there were already many students shuttling back and forth between the food counters with plates in their hands. The smell of all kinds of food mixed together drifted over. His stomach couldn't help but growl. Looking around, his gaze locked onto Mu Qing, who was sitting in the corner. At this moment, her table was already piled with all kinds of food. Compared to the crowded places in other places, her surroundings were especially empty. It was obvious that no one wanted to interact with her. After taking the plate, Feng Qi began to choose his breakfast. Flowing heart cheese egg tarts, onion and potato omelet, banana crepe, rice noodle rolls, youtiao, bags of soy milk, one sweet and one salty, glutinous rice dumplings. He didn't stop until the plate was completely filled. Young man, although the food is free, it's shameful to waste it. The canteen auntie looked at Feng Qi with a serious expression. Auntie is right. Feng Qi grinned and took another hamburger. The canteen auntie. After taking the food, he walked over to Mu Qing. Then, he placed the plate at the table where Mu Qing was sitting and sat down sideways. Mu Qing, who was in the middle of eating, suddenly looked up and saw that the person sitting in front of her was Feng Qi. Although her expression was calm, there was a hint of surprise in her eyes. Feng Qi didn't say anything. He picked up the glutinous rice dumplings, added some pickled vegetables, picked up a youtiao, rolled it up, and took a big bite. Why do I have to sit here? Why can't I sit here? You're the one who opened the canteen. The other places are so crowded, but your place has so many empty seats. Feng Qi replied without looking up. Hearing this, Mu Qing was stunned. She looked at Feng Qi, who was eating, and ignored him. Feng Qi's appearance attracted the attention of many students in the canteen. They weren't surprised by Feng Qi's appetite, but by Feng Qi sitting in front of Mu Qing. The students who knew Mu Qing well knew how scary she was. There was once when she lost control and almost beat a student to death on the spot. If a passing teacher hadn't stepped in, that unlucky student would have been permanently disabled even if he didn't die. This was one of the reasons why no one was willing to come into contact with Mu Qing. It was because there was no telling when they would be killed by Mu Qing when she lost control. In the eyes of many students, Feng Qi's behavior was completely suicidal. Feng Qi chose to ignore the surprised gazes around him. After a while, Mu Qing looked up. Looking at Feng Qi, who was still wolfing down his food, she was surprised. She needed to eat a lot of food because of her special body constitution. Normal food would be digested very quickly once it entered her stomach, causing her to be in a state of hunger. However, Feng Qi was just a normal person. This kind of appetite seemed a little ridiculous. "What are you looking at?" "My first time. It won't be good if it's cold." Feng Qi, whose mouth was stuffed with food, looked up at Mu Qing. As he spoke, he grabbed a pork chop from Mu Qing's plate and stuffed it into his mouth without any reservations. Mu Qing. Chapter 19. The future people's evaluation of Mu Qing was very extreme. They believed that she was a stumbling block in the development of mankind and a great demon who would wreak havoc for a period of time. Feng Qi didn't know if there was a secret behind this evaluation. He just felt that Mu Qing's change might have something to do with the Scarlet Institute. The narrator's reminder could also prove that there was a secret behind this matter. Therefore, Feng Qi's current idea was very simple. He wanted to get close to Mu Qing and try to understand her. If Mu Qing hated all of mankind because she was always isolated and bullied by the people around her, then he was willing to try to change her and become friends with her. But if Mu Qing couldn't be changed and hated humans to the core, then he already knew what to do. In order to prevent that dark history from happening and prevent the establishment of the Dawn Rebels, he would find a way to nip Mu Qing in the bud. Other than that, he also planned to investigate the Scarlet Institute. But now wasn't the time to investigate the Scarlet Institute. After all, with his current influence and power, he couldn't do it. Feng Qi raised his head and looked at Mu Qing. At the same time, Mu Qing also raised her head and looked into his eyes. Then Feng Qi quickly grabbed the only boiled egg left on Mu Qing's plate and stuffed it into his mouth. He chewed and looked at Mu Qing. "Senior, can you please get some more breakfast? I'm not full yet." "Why don't you go by yourself?" Mu Qing said expressionlessly. "It's normal for a senior to take care of a junior." Looking at the calm Feng Qi, Mu Qing's cold heart began to stir. Feng Qi gave her a different feeling from the other students at the school. He seemed to really treat her like a normal person. She didn't look at him with the resistance, fear, or pity of other students. Sometimes, normal treatment was the greatest respect, and Feng Qi knew this very well. Without another word, Mu Qing got up and walked to the buffet area with her tray. A smile appeared on Feng Qi's face as he watched Mu Qing leave. Saving the Demon King of Missteps starts with breakfast. A moment later, Mu Qing returned with a tray full of food. Feng Qi didn't regard himself as an outsider at all. He reached out to grab the food and began to eat. Breakfast went on for a long time, and the number of students in the cafeteria gradually decreased. Feng Qi also felt that he had eaten too much, and the rate at which he consumed food could not keep up with the rate at which he ate. However, Mu Qing was still eating, showing no signs of stopping. Energy replenished. Current energy, 0, 43%. He looked at the energy replenishment progress bar, rubbed his stomach, and then looked at Mu Qing. "Senior sister, can we be friends?" When Mu Qing heard this, her expression froze. She seemed to have choked. She pounded her chest and swallowed the food. Mu Qing looked at Feng Qi with a puzzled expression. "Why? The song you played yesterday was very nice. I want to learn it. Teach me when you have time," Feng Qi replied with a smile. "Maybe you can try to understand me before you make a decision. I know your name is Mu Qing, and I also know that you're a rune-modified person. So, can we be friends? Aren't you afraid?" Realizing that Feng Qi had a rough understanding of her situation, Mu Qing's heart stirred again. What's there to be afraid of? You're also a human, and I'm also a human. Why should I be afraid of you? Seeing the sincerity in Feng Qi's eyes, Mu Qing suddenly averted her gaze. She was used to the strange gazes of others, and Feng Qi's enthusiasm made her a little uncomfortable. Then, she suddenly stood up. I'm full. Then, she hurriedly left. Looking at Mu Qing's back, Feng Qi immediately shouted, Senior sister, wait. Mu Qing, who had already walked a few meters away, immediately turned back when she heard this. I haven't finished the food on my plate. The cafeteria auntie said that it's shameful to waste food. After glaring fiercely at Feng Qi, Mu Qing quickly left without looking back, disappearing from Feng Qi's sight. It really needs a process. Did I use too much force? Feng Qi couldn't help but murmur. After leaving the school cafeteria, Feng Qi went straight to the library. In the following time, he planned to study cultivation in depth to pave the way for his future acting. Although he had already learned a lot of cultivation knowledge from Wang Jinxing, Feng Qi felt that he was a future genius after all, and he had to know a little bit about everything. Otherwise, it would be awkward if he couldn't answer the questions in a remote area. What was even more awkward was that, after plagiarizing the future, he might have created a new cultivation method in this remote area. The library was located in the central area of Star City University. It was a building that covered an area of 3 hectares. In front of the door stood a statue of a man holding a book and wearing glasses. On the stone tablet, his life story was written. He was the founder of Star City University, Lin Yushu. He was also the son of the era who researched cultivation methods in the early days. He was one of the pioneers of the human cultivation era. After bowing, Feng Qi walked around the statue and stepped into the library. At this time, there were already many students in the library. They were shuttling between the bookshelves or sitting in the reading room, flipping through books. After arriving at the front desk and asking the librarian where the cultivation books were placed, Feng Qi went straight to the front desk and began to choose a book. After searching for a while, he took a book called Cultivation Method Research Midstage Advancement, Volume 3 from the bookshelf. After finding an empty seat and sitting down, Feng Qi began to flip through the contents of the book. With the passage of time, Feng Qi gradually entered a trance. He abandoned himself in the sea of knowledge, and there was no way to turn back. The study of cultivation was a comprehensive subject that included cultivation methods, body cultivation, spells, medical treatment, and so on. The foundation of all the subjects was to master cultivation method. Different cultivation methods could bring different abilities to the cultivator. For example, the ferocious tiger fist that he mastered was a body cultivation method. It could strengthen the cultivator's physique, and even give the cultivator the strength to fight against domain creatures. Among them, spells were the most complex and profound. It originated from human research on the supernatural abilities of domain creatures. During the research, people discovered that the supernatural abilities of domain creatures were actually using the spiritual energy stored in the body to outline a special path outside the body. This caused the spiritual energy to change and burst out with a strange power. For example, a very simple fireball technique. The cultivator only needed to guide the spiritual energy in the body to outline a simple star path. The spiritual energy would then be ignited and transformed into a fireball. Spells had been developed to this point. The number of spells that had been developed was far more than cultivation method. There were tens of thousands of them, so it was the most prosperous subject of cultivation. Medical treatment was a combination of cultivation methods and spells. For example, cultivators who cultivated Mui Qi would produce a very gentle spiritual energy in their bodies. This type of spiritual energy was very suitable for casting healing spells and could save the lives of others at critical moments. Therefore, every domain battle group would be equipped with several medical personnel. Sister Mo Fei, who worked in the school's infirmary, was a retired medical personnel. Other than that, cultivation also included auxiliary combat studies, occult studies, array studies, and so on. It would take a lot of time to digest all these contents. For the time being, he focused on the research of cultivation methods. This was also the path that he had chosen. Time passed quickly as he studied. He raised his head and looked at the clock hanging on the opposite wall. It was already 11 o'clock, but he had no intention of leaving. After all, if I want to become a recognized super genius, I have to work hard. Chapter 20. Star City University Library. After a morning of studying, Feng Qi had a new understanding of cultivation, but it was only progress in the content he had learned. It was obviously unrealistic for him to become a fatty in one go. There was no cultivation exchange class today. His stomach was rumbling with hunger, so he planned to eat lunch first and continue studying in the library in the afternoon. Just as he got up, a figure blocked his way. It was a young man about 17 or 18 years old. He was extremely handsome and had a gentle beauty. His ebony eyes were staring straight at him, then he smiled and stretched out his hand. "Hello, my name is Lin Ran. I was fortunate enough to listen to your lecture yesterday. Your explanation of physical skills was really wonderful." Lin Ran? A hint of surprise appeared on Feng Qi's face. This name reminded him of the Lindong Academy exchange student who had been praised by the students on the Star City Forum recently. "You're the exchange student from the Lindong Academy, Lin Ran?" Feng Qi immediately asked when he thought of this. "I didn't expect Senior to have heard of me. I'm ashamed." Lin Ran smiled and scratched his head. As he spoke, he looked at the book in Feng Qi's hand. He was curious about what kind of book Feng Qi usually read. But when he saw the cover of the book, Advanced Cultivation Method Research, Volume 3, his expression was a little confused. In Lin Ran's opinion, Feng Qi had his own unique understanding of physical skills. His understanding of cultivation was very thorough, and he could even form his own school. However, at this moment, he was actually flipping through basic cultivation books. This was obviously somewhat unreasonable. But then Lin Ran came up with a reason for Feng Qi. Only with a solid foundation could one truly open up a new cultivation path. As expected of Senior. Thinking of this, Lin Ran looked at Feng Qi with a hint of admiration. "Senior, I've memorized the content of the Tiger Fist you explained yesterday, but there are still many things I don't understand. I hope to get Senior's guidance." With that said, Lin Ran took out a black-covered notebook from somewhere and said excitedly, "You can ask me if there's anything you don't understand, but don't call me Senior. Also, I'm going to have lunch now. Come find me at the library in the afternoon." Feng Qi was slightly embarrassed in front of the passionate Lin Ran. He didn't know much about Lin Ran, but from the evaluations of the students on the forum, he knew that Lin Ran was a very talented student in the field of martial arts research. Just like Lao Wang in history, he had been recruited by the Tiger Soul Institute before he even graduated. Therefore, Feng Qi had a good impression of Lin Ran. He was also willing to explain some of the contents of the Fierce Tiger Fist to him, hoping that it would be of help to his growth. "I happen to be hungry as well. Why don't we have lunch together?" Lin Ran said as if they were close friends. Since he had decided to interact with Lin Ran, Feng Qi didn't reject the invitation to have lunch together and immediately agreed. After putting the book back on the shelf, he and Lin Ran left the library and walked towards the cafeteria. Along the way, Lin Ran was very excited and kept talking about his admiration for him. This made Feng Qi feel very speechless. He originally wanted to be friends with Lin Ran, but now he felt like he had taken in a bootlicker. When they arrived at Xuefu restaurant, it was already past lunchtime. Most of the students had left, but Mu Qing was still sitting in the northern corner of the restaurant, rain or shine. The table was filled with food as usual. After taking a tray and filling it with the food he wanted, Feng Qi walked towards the table where Mu Qing was sitting. Seeing this, Lin Ran immediately followed. After coming in front of Mu Qing and putting down the tray, he sat down sideways. At this time, Lin Ran also decisively sat beside him. Mu Qing raised her head. She wasn't surprised to see Feng Qi, but she was surprised that there was another person at the table. Used to being alone, Mu Qing seemed a little uncomfortable, but she didn't show it on her face. She lowered her head and continued to eat. She didn't even greet Feng Qi. Before Feng Qi could say anything, Lin Ran took the initiative to introduce himself and politely extended his hand. "Hello, senior sister. My name is Lin Ran. Nice to meet you." Mu Qing raised her head and glanced at Lin Ran. Then, she lowered her head indifferently and continued to eat. The right hand that was half raised in the air slowly retracted. Lin Ran turned to look at Feng Qi with an awkward expression. "Senior, you took so much food. Can you finish it all? Although the food in the academy is free, it's shameful to waste it." "Don't talk so much when you're eating." Feng Qi glared at the chatterbox Lin Ran and grabbed an egg tart and stuffed it into his mouth. Seeing that Feng Qi and Mu Qing were ignoring him, Lin Ran looked at the tray. Compared to Feng Qi and Mu Qing's beast-like eating style, Lin Ran ate very gently. He held his chopsticks and chewed slowly the whole time. But soon, he couldn't be elegant anymore. He found it unbelievable that Feng Qi and Mu Qing's appetite. The food piled up on the table decreased at a speed visible to the naked eye. He even suspected that the people sitting beside him weren't humans, but two-domain monsters. When Feng Qi finished all the food on his tray, he grabbed Mu Qing's steak and stuffed it into his mouth. He chewed and swallowed, then stopped eating. Mu Qing was already used to this. She didn't even bother to raise her head. "Senior, are you full?" Lin Ran noticed that Feng Qi had stopped eating, so he stuck his head out and asked. "It's hard to digest if I'm too full." Feng Qi wanted to laugh when he saw the unconcealable surprise on Lin Ran's face. Compared to Mu Qing, he was really far behind. "It takes a lot of brain power, so I need to replenish a lot of nutrient." "I understand." At this moment, Lin Ran automatically thought of a reason for Feng Qi's huge appetite. Feng Qi was speechless. The image of Lin Ran as a bootlicker deepened in his heart. Feng Qi could no longer compare him to Lao Wang in history. "Senior, we're full. Let's eat together for dinner." After eating and drinking to their fill, Feng Qi lifted his tray and prepared to leave. Seeing this, Lin Ran also stood up. Hearing Feng Qi's words, Mu Qing didn't even raise her head. She continued stuffing food into her mouth. Her cheeks were constantly puffing up, making her look very cute and silly. However, her expression was still cold, as if she didn't want outsiders to come near her. However, Feng Qi felt that this was just Mu Qing's self-protection disguise. After leaving the cafeteria, on the way to the library, Lin Ran couldn't help but ask curiously, "Senior, are you trying to woo that senior sister? She doesn't seem to like you, right?" Faced with Lin Ran's gossip, Feng Qi felt helpless. He approached Mu Qing purely to make friends. At the same time, he wanted to extinguish Mu Qing's desire to destroy the world. He didn't have any other thoughts. After all, he still had a grand dream of saving the world. How could he be held back by feelings? Love would only affect the speed at which he drew his sword. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.